What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Sitting down in a rocking chair on the self-made porch of his house, a blonde began humming a favorite tune of his. Hearing the door creak open, he heard footsteps and then a weight on his lap. "Nay, Sai, love, Daijobu," said the clearly feminine voice before a chaste kiss was given to him. Oh yes, I'm fine." He didn't get to finish before 3 shuriken embedded themselves into the chair just before he grabbed the woman in his lap and setting her down on the other side of the porch before disappearing once again. In the trees above the house, 7 Anbu stood shocked at the speed he showed. One with the mask of a boar spoke up before the others. How did he move that fast? She stopped when she felt the cold metal of a kunai against her neck. Through the corners of her eyes holes, she saw the very person she threw the shuriken at. "Ino-san, you should know not to attack a civilian of another country, for it might cause more trouble for Konoha. It doesn't need to have Taki, AIM, and the sea militia on its rear. Matt, you should know that Konoha can also attack sea country." "Yes, but that would be considered a sign of war on us to Taki and AIM. They're allied with us, Shikamaru." Stepping out of the shadows of the trees, Konoha's premier shadow user took of his deer mask, showing his ever-lazy eyes, though it didn't look right on his serious face. "So, what's with the reunion may I ask? And why did you bring Ino, Neji, Shino, and Kiba? And who are these other two?" Hiding the shock on his face, he didn't answer. Instead, he brought up a completely untouched subject between them. "Konoha needs your help, Naruto. We're fighting a losing war. The council thinks that finding the blades of the Jusan Oni we can win. Intelligence says that the last to have one, or any information on one of them, was you. The Kazama clan hid them away before they could be taken. So the council sent us out to try and retrieve the blade, but Tsunade got them to try and bring you back with us, so they can attempt to get more info, but we all know she wants you back in Konoha." Jumping out of the tree, Naruto walked back to the home he had built, and pulling out the shuriken in the chair, he sat down in it with a sigh. Rubbing his forehead, he looked over to the Anbu and began talking. "So the old farts want to use the power of the Jusan Oni Yeba, huh? And they know that I have 2 of them. Let me tell you something. The Kazama clan hid them for a reason. As long as the other 8 stay hidden, you're not going to find them. The Jusan Oni Sandame Sabin technique is forbidden for a reason. The other 2, the Zeichi and Nidame Sabin, you need mastery over. I do not care if Konoha falls." And with that, he waited for their response when a familiar voice spoke to him. "Sai, you won't help your friends? You once told me that you would protect your precious people no matter what." Looking over to the voice, he saw his wife, Sayuri, walking towards when one of the Anbu that he didn't know slipped behind her, held and kunai to her neck, already drawing a trickle of blood. "Gomen, Uzumaki-san, but we have been given orders directly from the council to bring you and the swords, since you said you have them, back with us." Shocked, he looked over at Shikamaru, who had a look that said sorry, while the other members had looks of pleading forgiveness. Growling, he weighed his options. He could try to rescue Sayuri, but leave his rear open. Or he could go with them and protect her. Needless to say, he gave in to the latter. "Fine, just let her go. I'll go with you, but don't expect me just hand over the swords. I'm a mercenary. I only work for money. Let Sayuri go, and I'll go with you." "Domo, Naruto. Konoha needs the Byakko. We cannot win this war alone. Pack yours and her bags. She will be safe inside Konoha from Otto," said Kiba to his friend, as he went inside to help him pack. Cabin. Master bedroom. Entering the bedroom, Naruto began pulling out the suitcases when he felt Kiba's chakra presence behind him. Setting the bags on the bed, he looked over at his friend. "What do you want? You know we don't want to do this. Everybody from the last mission still thinks it's unfair how you were treated. I mean, sure Sasuke escaped, but to blame you for our injuries, him turning over to Orochimaru, and losing the Sharingan? But to banish you from Konoha, and welcome him back with open arms?" Hanging his head, Naruto went back to packing as he went through all the drawers before he began talking. "Kiba, what do the people of Konoha think of me?" Looking over at his old friend, Kiba felt a pang of guilt in his heart before he answered. "The majority of the civilian populace still hates you, but the younger generation still loves you, even though the secret of Kyuubi is out. The rookie 9 and guys team accept you. Though Nin Populace has, begrudgingly, I love using big words, recognized your power. Finished packing the last shirt, Naruto walked over to his closet before opening it. Reaching in it, he pulled out 3 scrolls and a robe. The robe was pure white and had black designs on it at random places. Think the last battle from KH2 against Xemnas. So that's the legendary cloak of the Byakko. Sweet, but what's with the scrolls? One holds 10 of my personal arsenal, while another is a document for Tsunade. The last, however, I shall not tell you. Are you ready, Kiba? If you are, can you grab one of the bags? Reaching over, the Inuzuka took one of the bags and walked out of the cabin, leaving Naruto to gather whatever else he wanted. With a sigh, Naruto took one last look at the house he had built with his own sweat, blood, and sore thumbs. He walked back outside. Good, now that you're ready, we can get going, said Shikamaru when he saw the blonde leave the house. Matt, Shikamaru, if I'm going with you, Sayuri will stay next to me. I can just as easily rebel and attack. I didn't get the name Byakko for nothing. I'll go with you, but Sayuri stays with me. Looking back at his friend, Shikamaru held the look of sadness. Silently, he nodded his head and took off into a full sprint in the direction of Konoha. Taking off after his friend, Naruto picked up Sayuri, who let out a small eep and took off after him. Behind were all of the Anbu but 2. With a grumble, Neji lifted up the bags before he took off after them. Why'd I always have to carry everything? Standing in the clearing where the cabin was, a burning flame erupted. Checking their work, one of the Anbu took out a radio and began talking. Phase 1 completed. Orochimaru-sama. Waiting for a reply, she heard the kuro sound of the waiting part before hearing the raspy voice of her master. Good, proceed with Phase 2 as planned. Replying with a quick yes, she took off in the direction of her so-called comrades. Konohagakure no Sato, Hokage's office. Opening the doors to Tsunade's office, she stepped inside. Tsunade-sama, Shikamaru and his team have come back from Sea Country with Naruto. Standing up, she ordered Shizune to ready a meeting with the council before she stepped outside to meet Shikamaru's team sitting on some benches. Looking over the heads, she stopped when she saw familiar sunny blonde spikes. Under that, she saw long black hair. Smiling when she saw that he had found someone, she spoke up. Naruto, how have you been? Opening one of his closed eyes, he looked at her with a half-lidded one. Considering what I've been through, great Tsunade. Feeling a pang in her heart when he didn't say, Ba-chan, she walked over to him. Looking at the face of the one who stole her little brother's heart, she saw angelic features. Her bangs framed her face perfectly, falling down to her shoulders, and her eyes were closed. She saw soft cheeks and ruby-red lips. You got a good catch, Naruto. I'm happy for you. Entering the hall through Tsunade's office, Shizune came out to tell them, Tsunade-sama, the council is ready. Nodding her head, she turned to Naruto. Time to go. The council chamber was peculiar to say the least. Rows of desks stacked higher and higher until you reached a 7th story. The higher up you are, the more important you are. The lower 5 just had minor clans and civilian representatives, while the 6th and 7th were the same rank, just that there weren't enough chairs. Leaning back in a chair, Naruto was wearing the robe of the Byakko to signify who he was. Sitting in front of him were Hyuga, Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, Inuzuka, Aburame, Haruno, Uchiha, Sasuke, Sarutobi, Kaharu, Hitane, and Tsunade on the 6th and 7th rows. The other rows were only filled up during times when things considered the civilian populace. Deciding to get this underway, Tsunade stood and addressed Naruto to the rest of the council. Uzumaki Naruto. Age: 23. Height: 6 feet 2 weight, 213 pounds. Hair color: blonde eyes. Blue. Notable features: 3 whisker marks on each cheek, resembling that of a fox. You have been brought before the Council of Konoha due to intel that you have 2 of the Jusan Oni Yeba. Is this true? Looking over to the person who was like his older sister, he stopped, leaning back to give a proper reply. Hell yeah, but I won't hand them over. Do you know why you're here? Cause Konoha finally realized that when they banished me, they gave up their trump card, and now they need me, who they banished for no reason, to save their sorry asses. And they also want to take something from me. This is where Kaharu spoke up. Oh, I think we know something that you would hand them over for. With his curiosity perked, he turned his attention to the third's former teammate. Go on, out with it. Hitane answered for him when she answered with the sentence of, to become a Anbu of Konoha. You would be placed under Danzo and… Here she was interrupted with a cough from the legendary Byako in front of her when he started talking. Let me get this straight. You want me, points to himself, to give you, points to the council, the Jusan Oni Yeba I have in my possession, points to himself again, to you, points to them. And I get to become an Anbu under old Cyclops here, points his thumb Danzo. Nodding her head proudly, not noticing the seething Danzo, the rest of the council looked at the blonde, waiting for him to fall into their, not including Tsunade, trap. Leaning back once more, Naruto put on the mask of making it look like he was mulling it around in his head. Did they really think that he would fall for that? They were hoping to get 4 birds with 1 stone. They hoped to get the Jusan Oni Yeba from him, find the locations of the others from him, end the war, and kill himself while doing it. Pretty tempting, right? Deciding to play along, he told them a lie. Alright, I'll think about it. I'll come back within the next day to give you my answer. Getting up to leave, he noticed that a majority of the council were pissed that he had escaped their plan, and that a few others, including Tsunade, had a soft smile on their own features. Leaving the chamber behind him, he stopped at the door and told them, I am a mercenary. You might forget to pay me. Thus, leaving bewildered council members behind him, Naruto set off. Of everyone there, only Tsunade and Sasuke caught the hidden meaning behind that. Outside Hokage's office. Bored. That's the only thing that could describe the wife of Uzumaki Naruto. She had been told that he had gone to a council meeting, so she had gone out shopping. Swinging by the bank, she pulled out a couple of yen notes, mainly because she used all the ones she had on her, to go rent a hotel room for them both, leaving the bags there. Now, she was currently waiting for her husband outside of the Hokage's office when she saw him leave the council chambers, and walk towards her. Naruto-kun, what took so long? I was able to go shopping, go by the bank, and even rent a hotel room. Looking down at the black-haired beauty in his arms, he placed a kiss on her head before he told her, the old farts tried to trick me into doing something, but I lured them into a trap of my own. Smiling softly, she leaned into his embrace as his arms circled around her. Well, how about I show around the place I once called home? Leading Sayuri out of the tower, he walked along the streets, pointing out the places that held good memories. The park where he first met Sarutobi, the sandbox where he met Kiba and Choji, the rooftop that he and Shikamaru first met in the academy. Maybe I should pay Ruka-sensei a visit, it has been a while I've seen him. Noticing the far-off look in her lover's eyes, Sayuri broke him from his thoughts. Naruto-kun, Daijobu? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Say, you wanna meet one of my old teachers? Giving a slow nod, she walked with him over to the academy. Sayuri knew about the Kyuubi and how he was treated. She also knew that some people saw past the beast he held and gave him respect for holding it. She hoped this Iruka was one of them. Working on where to assign academy students for new genin teams, Iruka was working through papers when he heard the door open. Moving his attention to the door, his jaw dropped. Naruto. Is that you? Smiling his goofy smile, he gave a wave to his former teacher. Yo. Going into mother hen mode, he began checking the boy all over. Are you hurt? Are you okay? Why didn't you visit? Oh yeah, you were banished. You have been taking care of yourself, right? You haven't been overeating? Oh, and who is this pretty lady? Giving a soft blush, Sayuri introduced herself to the man was asking a question a mile a minute. Sayuri, sir, I'm Naruto-kun's wife. Nice to meet you, she said, shaking his hand. I'm glad he's finally found someone. So why are you here, Naruto? You know, I'm here for 2 reasons. 1, to visit you. 2, to ask why you gave away my location. You were the only person I told that I was settling down in Sea Country. Looking away from his former student, Iruka moved his attention to the window. You have to understand, Naruto. Konoha is taking heavy casualties. The council knew that the Byako was strong and a mercenary, they just didn't know where to find you. The story of the Jusan Oni Yeba also gave hope to us, making us think that if we had both on our side, we could pull through this. Then the rumor that you had a couple of them spread and that you were Naruto, the council said, all the better. We can bring our most loyal shinobi back and bring more power with him. The Konoha 11 saw through that, knowing all they wanted was power. I had no choice. I don't want to be responsible for Konoha's downfall. Looking at the turned back of his sensei, Naruto replied with a smile. If that's the case, I'm glad you brought me back. I wouldn't want that burden to fall on your shoulders. You'd probably go insane from the strain, start pulling out your hair, and shrug the duty off to Kakashi and let him put it off for 3 hours. Sweat dropping at the reply and grin, Iruka gave a drawn-out sigh. Well, it's good to have you back. What rank has the council given you? Rank? I don't have a rank. I'm a mercenary. Shocked, Iruka looked to Sayuri. Bet you forgot about her. To confirm this, and when she nodded, he sat back down. I thought they would reinstate you tonight. Why didn't they? They were hoping to get 4 birds with 1 stone. They think they can fool me. Well, if they think they can fool Uzumaki Naruto, I'll show them why I was called Konoha's most surprising ninja. Giving a soft smile up to her husband, Sayuri gave a small yes you will to him. Iruka got up and put a hand on the taller man's shoulder and said, well, thank you for visiting me. Konoha's gotten a lot quieter since you left. Now, if you would excuse me, I have to find out where to place newly graduated students and get sensei for them by tomorrow. Leaving the academy, Naruto and Sayuri left Naruto's former sensei to deal with the horror known as paperwork. Walking down the street, he and Sayuri had a meal of ramen at Naruto's favorite restaurant, Ikaraku. Tucci and Ayame were surprised to see him, but were immensely glad. Currently, Naruto was walking towards the hotel after saying hi to some old friends. Sayuri had gone back after eating, saying she wanted to get her beauty sleep. Naruto ni-san? Is that you? It is. It is. Huh? Suddenly, he dodged a tackle from the ground by a flying ball of brown known as Sarutobi Konohamaru. Konohamaru? Daijobu? Turning his beaming face from the concrete, he smiled up at his idol, who held a look, indicating that he was sweat dropping. Rebounding, he hugged the person he hadn't seen in 10 years. Naruto ni-san, you're back. Giving a chuckle, he ruffled the Sarutobi's hair before he started down the road again. Looking over his shoulder, he saw the young Saru wasn't following him. You coming? There's a cafe around the corner. Arriving at the cafe, they talked about what had happened since he left. He also told what members of the Rookie 9 were married and one other piece of information. Naruto? Believe me, I really don't want to be the one to tell you this, but I feel you should know. Looking at Konohamaru, he started to wonder what he was going to tell him. Tucci's retiring. No, that can't be it. Ebisu died? Nah. Tsunade gave up sake? Maybe that's it. The council, not Tsunade, has elected Sasuke as the Rokudame. Blue eyes widened then narrowed when the words the young Sarutobi told him sunk in. Why was it that Sasuke always got what Naruto worked so hard to achieve? Naruto was hated and Sasuke was loved just because of his name. All he had to do was say he wanted something, and boom. There it is on a silver platter. And, just for trying to bring him back, they exile him, whereas Sasuke betrayed the village to its greatest enemy, and was welcomed back with opened arms. Abruptly standing up, Naruto called out into the shadows, with the eyes of everyone in the cafe on him. Sasuke, I know you've been following me. Just waiting there for me to find out, weren't you? Stepping out of the doorway, the last, true, Uchiha smirked at the blonde, daring him to do something. Emitting growl from within his throat, Naruto's deep blue eyes, glazed over with a cold edge, flashed a red of anger for a brief moment. This didn't go unnoticed by the Uchiha though. Mad Dobi? You wouldn't have gotten the title anyways. You had to be on the council, an ANBU, or a former Jonin instructor, unless you were chosen by the Hokage. You also have to be strong. And smart. You lack both. Faster than the naked eye could see, Naruto was behind Sasuke, standing in the street. Training Ground 14. See you there, Dobi. Everyone in the cafe heard what they were talking about and rushed over to the field. Ninja that were going home or someplace else, also saw the crowd and joined it. Basically, there was one huge ass crowd going to a place that had become a monument to all the people that had trained there. The training ground that belonged to Team Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Arashi, Team 7, and Team Ebisu. Standing off on both sides, Naruto and Sasuke locked each other's gaze. Pulling out a scroll, Sasuke bit his thumb and wiped it across the seal on it. In a poof of smoke was an elegant blade. The blade itself was amazingly elegant, with the hilt in the design of a black rose with vines curling around, and then climbing onto the purple steel the hilt held. It appeared to be a kind of katana, even though it had fangs on the side that pointed to himself. Shocked? I wouldn't be surprised. After all, you're not the only one with one of the Jusan Oni Yeba. This one is. He was cut off by laughter coming from the blonde in front of him as it evolved into hysteric cackling. Oh God. It's been so long since I've had a good fight. Exactly 6 years I do believe since I fought another with one of the Yeba. This can't be Naruto. He never got an insane look in his eye. It's like he's pulled a Gaara. I wonder if you know the story behind Jusan Oni Yeba. Probably not. Then allow me to tell you. Everyone, and I mean everyone, strained to hear the blonde's tale. The council members, Tsunade, who, along with the council, felt the blade be unsealed and came. Jiraiya, who was interrupted from creating the greatest book ever, and multitudes of other shinobi and civilians alike were wanting to listen to the story behind one of the greatest mysteries of all the shinobi nations. The Jusan Oni Yeba have earned that name. During their forging, 6 demons and fallen angels and 6 celestial beings were sealed into them while the iron was hot. Every single one morphed the blade to fit their personality. Afterwards, they were given to 13 samurai, who strangely all belonged to the Kazama clan. The Sabins were created in that clan, and used them to their full extent. However, what they didn't know was that some of the sealed beings didn't like this, and slowly, without raising suspicion, drove them to brinks of insanity. Eventually, after several generations of passing down the blades, the Kazama clan elders decided to forever seal away the swords for all eternity. It didn't go as planned. The seals were broken and the blades robed from their sanctuaries as they were used for deeds that shouldn't have been done. Only 8 of the original 13 are still sealed today. Now, each of the blades is hidden in a place corresponding to their name. Isamashi no Bengosha, Defender of the Valiant; Naken no Rusuban, Caretaker of the Wicked; Dedo Kaika Hana, Dead Blooming Flower, is the one you have. Teme, Saisoku Dedo Abara, Living Dead Thorn; Numen no Uha, King of Peasants; Uha no Tazoku, Thief of Kings; Tenpai no Kyojaku, Strength of the Sun; Getsue no Nanten, Weakness of the Moon; Weizu no Kyojin, Madman of the Wise; Kichigai no Tetsujin, Wise Man of the Mad. Is one of the 2 I have? Fitting, isn't? Burkan Naraku, Hellbreaker. Is the other one I have as well? It's fitting? Uzora no Shini, Death of Heaven. And last, but not least, Kyusei Disutorakuta, Salvation Destructor. I know where each and every one is now, thanks to you Teme, and I can make sure they're not all completely unsealed. Oh, and on a side note, did you know that if you are defeated and you have some of the Jusan Oni Yeba, you have to hand over each and every one to the person who defeated you? Silence infected the crowd as they thought of the creation of the blades they thought would place them on top secret. The fact that some of them drew you to insanity sometimes? So you're saying that if I defeat you, I'll have not only the Dedo Kaika Hana, but the 2 you have? Yep, but believe me, if you're gonna try to beat me, you'll have to do a fuckload of work. Then I better guess I start now. Lunging at the blonde, he swung for a horizontal slice, before Naruto jumped over it and planted a solid kick to the Uchiha's face. Now, let's not get too hasty. Growling, Sasuke implanted his blade in the ground and started doing hand seals. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Standing in front of a giant fireball that is flying towards you, it's smart to keep moving. Dashing to the side, the Byakko countered the Uchiha with a jutsu of his own. Sweden. Hanryu no Jutsu. Smothering the fireball with a current of water that turned into steam, the blonde dashed across waning surface of the liquid on the ground and held his hand in front of him. Burkan Naraku. The Hellbreaker earned that name for sure. The hilt in the design of a raging flame held a black and red iron, with a single white line down the sides of it. Small etchings of demons were on the bottom parts of the hilt while the blade was decorated with seals. Double-edged, you could see that it was a destructive force. Noticing the blonde had drawn his blade, the Sasuke pulled the Kaika, that's what I'm calling it, out of the ground and charged into the mist. Damn it, I can't see them. Where are they? What happened? They are currently exchanging strikes, but Naruto seems to have the upper hand. All eyes turned to Hyuga Neji, as he began commentary to the fight in the steam. Naruto just tried a vertical upper slice and Sasuke countered by using the flat side of his blade as a shield. Oh, shouldn't have done that, Now Naruto can use that to his advantage. Questioning looks jumped onto the faces of the people before they got their answer when a black blur was sent flying out of the steam as it finally dissipated. Sasuke coughed up a bit of blood when he pulled himself out of the crater the blonde kicked him. Staring up to the blonde, his onyx eyes faded to reveal the Mangekyo Sharingan. How did you get the Mangekyo Teme? Grinning, Sasuke began to elaborate. When I went over to Orochimaru, I had made myself another best friend and killed him instead. I was rewarded with this. You should feel lucky, Dobi. Not many people get to see my Sharingan. Charging at Chidori, Sasuke began running at Naruto, who was playing the situation over in his head. If I match that, then, after that I could, yeah. That's what I'll do. Then, the crowd began noticing a bunch of the air around the Uzumaki become distorted as a spiraling blue sphere appeared in his hand. Meeting the Chidori in Sasuke's hand, Naruto thrusted the Rasengan forward. An explosion occurred in the training ground as the two were blown back. Jiraiya began frowning at the amount of power the blonde put into the Rasengan he used and wondered why he chose that much, and thus, he voiced his opinion. Oi, Naruto, why didn't you put more power behind that? The crowd, shocked into silence from what the toad hermit said, began spluttering in their heads, and their mouths made them look like fish. Naruto still wasn't going all out? Pulled from the thoughts in their heads, they turned their attention to the people who were slowly picking themselves up from the craters in the ground. Standing up first, Sasuke noticed that both of their swords were gone and knew that he could just call it back, so he wasn't worried. Then, he smirked as he sped toward Naruto, who was still pulling himself out of the crater. It was much bigger. Crouching down, he delivered a kick to the man's chin, sending him flying into the air. Cheers erupted from the crowd as they saw their precious Sasuke-sama kick the demon into the air. Then, he delivered a backhand, just like how a lion sweeps its paw at its prey. Now above the blonde, he sent him barreling towards the ground, just before he delivered a rib-shattering heel kick to his stomach. The result he got was Naruto coughing up blood onto his robe. Shi Renden. Standing up, Sasuke smirked at the blonde. Hey, the demon stood no chance. Sasuke-sama defeated the Byakko. The Jusan Oni Yeba are his. No one can beat him. 3 cheers for Sasuke-sama. Cheer, che. They were suddenly cut off when 5 spinning blade, resembling the Burkan Naraku, shot out of the ground and sliced straight through parts Sasuke's right side. Jiraiya's eyes widened as everyone gasped at the sight. His leg had a nasty gash in it, while his ribs were bleeding profusely. A deep wound on the shoulder was matched by a slice in the muscle. Add impalement somewhere in there and you have the right side of Sasuke's body. Jusan Oni Zeiichi Seiban. Kaimetsu, 13 Demons First Trial. Devastation. The first of 3 techniques belonging to the Jusan Oni, explained Naruto as he balanced himself against a tree behind him, feeling the after effects of the Shi Renden. His forehead had a nasty gash on it, and one of his rib bones was sticking out of his skin. He had given Kyuubi orders not to heal him in this fight. The Zeiichi and Naidame Seiban require at least 10 swords to work. That's why the Kazama clan gave each of the swords the ability to split into at least 5 copies of the original. The Inuzuka clan's Suga and Gatsuga techniques were ripped off from copying the spin. While the Kazama clan adopted the puppetry technique, they didn't create it, to become fairly decent at long-range combat, using spinning blades as weapons that could carve through your opponent. This became the Zeiichi Seiban. The Naidame constantly impaled your opponent into the air, surrounded them with the blades, then impaled them from all sides. I, however, will not show you any more than the Zeiichi. The crowd, silent from hearing the blonde could use such a technique that caused so much bodily harm, was currently deciding to if they should stop the fight or not, force the Uzumaki to show Sasuke the move so he could copy it, and stop placing bets. Covering the wounds as best as he could, Sasuke was on his last legs. The blonde in front of him held so much knowledge of some of the most dangerous moves out there. Not only that, but he looked downright intimidating with 10 floating swords behind. Fed up with waiting, Naruto swung his arm broad, sending copies of the Kitsugai no Tetsujin soaring at his opponent. The Kitsugai no Tetsujin looked like a heavenly blade. The hilt was silver and forged into the design over a gray cloud, with lighting designs crawling down it. Gray steel with a midnight line down it entered the hilt, making the wise man of the mad. Barely dodging the blades coming at him, Sasuke sidestepped to the left and began doing hand seals. Kaden. Karyuenden. He aimed the giant fire dragon towards the spiraling blades that had missed him previously just before Naruto pulled them back. Cursing, Naruto turned 3 of the hell breakers around the blades on fire to put them out, while sending the others after the dark-haired male. Seeing what the blonde was about to do, he activated one of the Mangekyo, bet you forgot he had it on, main techniques. Amaterasu. Black flames erupted from the red eyes as they hurtled towards the Byakko, who had just put out the flames. Seeing the black fire coming at him, he sent the swords underground and wrap around a root of a tree and pull him under. Waiting with bated breath, the onlookers watched the high Jonin cage battle. Sasuke was in line to be the Hokage, and he was on par with the Godem, yet, Face Blonde was throwing him around like a rag doll. Pulling himself out of the ground, Naruto decided, Sasuke, I held back in the Valley of the End, but now, my promise to Sakura is null and void. I'm going all out. Sakura winced when he didn't add the Chan suffix at the end of her name. It clearly meant that he had cut most ties to Konoha when they exiled him. Some people around her wondered what that had to do with anything. Tsunade voiced her confusion when she asked, what promise? Kiba answered with a sneer when he said, the day you sent us out to retrieve Sasuke. Sakura made Naruto promise to return Sasuke to Konoha. Though I really don't get. The council blames Naruto for our injuries that we got from fighting the Sound Four alone. Naruto had nothing to do with them, but they exile him. Shikamaru also answered after Kiba finished. If anyone was to blame, it would have been me. I led that mission, and made each one of us stay behind and fight one of the elite Sound. But there was no other way. If we all stayed behind and all fought, we wouldn't have enough energy to face off against all of them, and lost Sasuke much faster. And the way I see it, Naruto saves all your ugly mugs just by being alive. Do you remember Gaara? He went insane because of people like you. By showing him hatred, beating him, it's a wonder that Naruto didn't join Gaara in insanity. This is where Jiraiya broke into an ear-splitting grin. His number 1 pupil was going to show them what hard work could really do. Naruto, if you're gonna pull out all the stops, show them the reason you're called the Byakko. Smirking, Naruto cancelled the Zeiichi Sabin and returned the blades back into the seals in his cloak, before he threw it off to reveal a black chest piece, navy blue baggy pant with his kunai holster on his right leg with his shuriken pouch on his left. His ninja tool pouch was where it always was, ever since his genin days. On his left ass cheek. Calming himself, blue chakra flickered around him as gasps went through the crowd. Chakra can't be seen unless you accumulated a bunch of it. Not only that, the chakra levels were still increasing so much, that Hinata and Neji's Byakugans were turning on and off because of it. When the chakra finally reached its peak, it looked like a massive blue flame. Clapping his hands together, like the palms were flat against each other, the chakra forced itself into the ground before a pit of white liquid appeared behind the blonde. Suddenly, a claw shot itself out of the pit as a giant snout poked out. Further picking itself up, the being shot out another claw before it fully climbed out. Behind the blonde stood a pure white fox, with 9 tails swinging behind it. People started yelling, bracing themselves for what they thought was the second coming of Kyuubi. After about 30 seconds of not being crushed and getting over the shock, they quickly paid full attention to the beast in front of them. Hijutsu. San Yaju Kamigami. Byakko no Kanki. Secret technique. 3 beast gods. Awakening of the white fox. Turning his cold gaze to Sasuke, whose Mangekyo faded out of existence after he saw what the blonde did, he told him what this technique did to him. Teme, this is the reason I'm called the Byakko. If you thought I picked up that name for kicks, you're dead wrong. Jiraiya began to smirk as he noticed Sasuke began feeling something he hadn't felt in ages. Fear. Uchiha Sasuke was experiencing fear as he stared at the huge kitsune standing on all fours behind the blonde in front of him. He knew that Naruto had gotten strong, but not this strong. He had surpassed him. The dead last of the academy had outdone him. Jiraiya, seeing that Sasuke was being stubborn, offered him some advice. Uchiha, give up. Naruto's pulled out all the stops this time. That jutsu is meant to kill. Unless you give up, Konoha is going to end up a wasteland. Grunting, Rage filled Sasuke's eyes. He had turned on the Sharingan in hopes to copy the blonde's jutsu, but he couldn't. Knowing what the blonde would do if he didn't surrender, he slowly got up. Fine, I give up. And with that, Naruto dispelled the fox and stood still, as if waiting for something. Then, a purple light erupted from the blonde's hand as the kaika was grasped in a firm grip. The kaika is mine, Sasuke. I told you that during a fight, the Jusan Oni Yaiba chose to have themselves wielded by the victor. Walking over to his discarded cloak, the blonde pulled it open as he bit his thumb to draw a blood seal onto the cloak. Finishing the seal, he placed the kaika inside it. Silence befell the crowd as they finally realized their beloved, Sasuke-sama, had lost. Shock drew themselves upon their faces as they watched the blonde walk over to the Uchiha. Sasuke, there is one thing I don't get about you. You were loved by all the villagers and shinobi in the village, but you betrayed all of us to go to Orochimaru, when you could have just asked for help from people around you. If you had stayed with Orochimaru and killed Itachi, he's not dead, he's too cool, what would you do? You shouldn't be allowed in Konoha, but they welcome you back with open arms, when they banish me for just trying to bring you back. What you saw in our fight was all me. No bloodline, no alternative power source, just all me. You're loved by the villagers as I am hated. Everybody just ignores me. Kakashi focused on you and Sakura as I was left there to find a new teacher. Naruto is right. He defeated Gaara during the Sand Sound invasion, brought Tsunadeheim back as the Godem Hokage, and even tried to bring back your precious Uchiha. Kakashi, you focused all your time and energy on Sasuke and Sakura and didn't teach Naruto a thing. Arashi would be ashamed, said Jiraiya as he walked up behind the BIY and placed a hand on his shoulders. Jiraiya-sama, that's not true. He taught Sasuke-sama Chidori and Reikiri and helped Sakura-sama with Genjutsu. Yelled an Anbu from behind their mask as Jiraiya sneered. Yet, you have failed to say what he has taught Naruto. The only thing useful he taught Mr. Sunshine here was tree walking. He learned techniques he has today from other sensei, including myself. You scum talk about never leaving a comrade behind, yet you do everything you can to put Naruto down. Ero Sennin, stop. Just tell them to go home so I can get back to Sayuri. Giving a grin to the boy, he told them all to leave as he poofed out of existence. Hotel room. Naruto and Sayuri's room. Upon getting into the room, Naruto noticed something wasn't right. He knew he had come to the right place, because she had rented a suite, but he couldn't shake the foreboding feeling in his gut as he searched for his wife. He had searched everywhere but the bedroom. She was nowhere to be seen, and she had told him she wasn't going out anymore for tonight. Extending a quivering hand to the doorknob, he pushed open the door. Naruto was greeted with a masked individual holding a kunai to Sayuri's neck. A.N. This is the longest chapter to anything I have written, whoa. Who is this masked person? This is why I wanted you to read the author's note. I'm holding a poll to see how I will write this story. Now, I hope you paid attention to the chapter because each side has perks. Is the masked person a Konoha nin? Sweat ran down the side of Naruto's head as he quickly began processing the information. A person was holding a kunai to his wife's neck, while standing next to the window. Due to the bed in the center of the room, he was on the other side. Deciding to get information first, he asked the person a question. How did you know we were here? The only ones that we're supposed to know are Tsunade Baba, Iruka-sensei, and the Anbu team. Smirking beneath the mask, the figure began speaking to the inner panicked man in front them. Finally realized it, You seriously didn't think that all of Konoha accepts you, did you? Taking a step towards the black-clad figure holding Sayuri, he quickly stopped when he noticed the masked one apply more pressure to the kunai at her neck. One bad move on your part, Mr. Byako, and her throat gets slit. If you don't want that to happen, you'll give in to my demands. They said, waving a finger from the kunai, mockingly. Cursing in his mind, Naruto couldn't believe himself. Of course not all of Konoha recognized him. They only knew about his strength. He knew he was in a predicament. He could listen to what the demands were and try to find an opening. Fine, but Sayuri stays over here with me. Once again, the masked one waved a figure at him. Now if I did that, I would lose my bargaining chip. Noticing the blonde wasn't trying anything, the masked figure began explaining their demands. I have 3 demands. 1. Obtain the Forbidden Scroll. 2. Hand over the Jusan Oniyaba and their locations. 3. You kidnap Uchiha Sasuke. If you do all those, I'll give you back your precious wife. Naruto was no fool. At the instant they said kidnap Sasuke, he knew this was no Konoha Anbu. This was a sound spy. But Naruto knew he could do nothing. If he didn't agree, Sayuri would die. If he did agree, Sayuri could get killed, and he would actually begin to get hunted by hunter nins. He didn't want that, so he came up with one logical conclusion. Try or die trying. Jumping over the bed, Naruto began pushing all the chakra into his legs as they could handle. He wasn't fast enough. The person had jumped out the window with Sayuri in tow. Using one of his now free arms, they began pulling of their mask. The person had feminine features, as she held no baby fat on her face. Pink lips, purple eyes, and dark black hair decorated her body. There will be no romance between Naruto and this OC. During the fall, she had loosened the amour to not only lower the restricting on her breathing, but unknowingly show a bit of her development. Turning their heads to the sky when they heard the sound of breaking glass, civilians started screaming and scattering when they saw a body fall towards them. Jumping out of the window after the woman, Naruto put his arms against his sides and went into a nosedive. Quickly catching up to the woman, Naruto realized what she was going to do. He wouldn't be able to reach them in time. A smirk passed over the dark-haired woman's face as she did the one thing she knew the blonde didn't want to happen. Thrusting the kunai that was in her hand towards the body in her arms, blood spewed everywhere. Sayuri was dead, from a kunai lodged in the throat. Time skip. 5 days later. Thunderclouds floated in the sky, as Naruto stood in Konoha's graveyard. The grave he was standing at belonged to his recently late wife. Her killer had escaped, using multiple stealth jutsus. He could have sworn he heard her say that the plan didn't go accordingly. The only people that showed up at her funeral were members of the Rookie Nine, that didn't see him as Kyuubi. Kiba had lied in hopes to make him feel better. He had visited her grave every day. Sometimes he would stay there all night. There was a tear in his heart when he saw the blood that belonged to her. Tsunade had begun checking up on him, making sure he didn't do anything drastic. Iruka did as well. Hell, even the council said he could give them his answer when he was ready. Standing up, Naruto poofed to Hokage Tower. Arriving in the middle of an empty hallway, he walked towards Tsunade's office. He paused briefly to look at recent wanted posters when two caught his eye. Saishi Gakido, the Akashishi. 100 million yen, I have no idea how much this is in America, so I just picked a big number. Uzumaki Naruto, the Byako. 100 million yen. A small smile graced his lips as he folded the wanted posters and placed them inside his robe as he continued his trek towards the council chambers, where he could hear Tsunade yelling. Council chambers. I'm telling you, we shouldn't have to put him through this. The more strong shinobi we have, the better, Tsunade. The council can overrule your decision, stated Homura at the furious blonde. Sitting back in her chair, Tsunade let out a heavy sigh that was interrupted when a cough echoed through the room. Looking over at the one who coughed, Tsunade blinked. What about me? Said Naruto as he looked over at the smug-looking council. He could tell that they just won over a decision of Tsunade's. Deciding to explain, Tsunade let out a sigh. They want you too, Suna. Some random pub. Looking up from his drink, Kankuro thought he heard Naruto screaming in terror. Shrugging it off, he went back to getting himself smashed after once again being put down on a date. Council chambers. No, please recon. No, please, no, I'm not teaching snot-nosed little brats. Letting an exasperated sigh, Hiyashi nodded towards a Chunin guard. Returning a few minutes later, the Chunin set a briefcase on the table and opened it. Inside were many a yen note. Smirking at the notice that the blonde's eyes had turned into yen symbols, Hiyashi let him know how much was in there. 300 million yen exact. This shall cover your stay in Konoha, food expenses, your pay as mercenary, a bribe to get you to teach some academy students, and a little pocket change. Turning back to the pale-eyed man, Naruto's eyes were still yen symbols. Hi, Hiyashi ni-san. Stifled giggles went around the council chamber as they saw Hiyashi twitch. And again, and once more, Maestro. Academy. Iruka's classroom. Iruka beamed brightly as he looked at his batch of students that were graduating today. It had been pushed back for some reason by the council, for a reason that Iruka didn't know until he relieved a letter in the mail. Let me tell you all something. This group of students has been one of the greatest I've ever had. But it's nothing like 10 years ago. Some of you are like exact replicas of them. Or at least your personalities. Waiting just outside with other Jonin, Naruto began chuckling lightly. He was happy he liked the rookie 9 more than this lot. Yosh, let's you all sorted. Team 1 will be. Team 7 shall be. Shigur Idatsu, Rain Recognition, Kyukai Meimei, Divine Long Cherished Hope, and Kuroda Chiba, Blackfield Thousand Feathers. Your sensei shall be Uzumaki Naruto. One of my former students. Walking through the door, the 3 said students looked to see their new sensei as he walked through the door. He wasn't wearing the standard Konoha flag jacket, so they didn't know what rank he was. Turning to the desks, all students had a cold sweat run down their face. Meet me on the rooftop. 10 minutes later. Leaning against the rail, Naruto heard his students come through the door. Turning his gaze to them, he jerked his toward the stairs to sit on. Taking a seat on the stairs, the 3 waited for further instruction. 5 minutes passed before anyone said anything. Gah, I can't take it anymore. What do you want us to do? Shouted an orange-haired boy. Opening his eyes to the boy, Naruto looked him over. He wore simple blue shorts with a one-sleeved yukata. He had hazel eyes and short, spiky orange hair. He was short, but no that short. Wearing his Konoha hide on his leg. The yukata he was wearing had an engraving on a nin-tailed fox on it for some reason. Deciding to toy with them, Naruto began smirking. Patience is a virtue. Never make the first move. Tell me your likes, dislikes, hobbies, dream, and favorite animal. Nay, sensei. Can you show us what you mean? Asked the girl innocently. Sighing, Naruto began his introduction, including the name part. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, the color orange, my late wife, my family figures, and sea country. I dislike the Akatsuki, sound, Orochimaru, Uchiha Sasuke, the fact my late wife is dead, people who look down on others while placing themselves too high, Konoha, and those who only look for power. My dream is to protect the locations of the last Jusan Oniyaba, and show Konoha that I'm not what they think. My favorite animal is the fox. Pointing to the orange one, he began speaking. Naruto told him to go. My name is Shigur Idatsu. I like the color orange, pie, foxes, and fireworks. I dislike those who look down on others just because they're different, and people who don't give others a chance. My hobbies include training, running, and art. My dream is to become stronger than the Byakko and then become Hokage. I like toads. That's a mighty hard goal, Gozu. Think you can make it? Naruto said, raising his eyebrows at his introduction. Pointing to the female of the squad, he told her to start. My name is Kyukai Meimei. I like looks at other male. I dislike Idatsu. My hobbies are turns to other male, and my dream is to turns to other male and squeals. My favorite animal is the panda, said Meimei. She wore a small skirt with female nin shorts beneath it, like Sakura after the time skip, along with a tank top. Her hair was cut shoulder length and was a light purple. Her legs were a fair length and she had a bit of cleavage for her age. She wore her headband in her hair like a bow. Great. A fangirl. Was Sakura always like this? Oi, Mr. Bubbly. You're up. HN. My name is Kuroda Chiba. I like training, Pocky, tea, and my Oni-san. I dislike fangirls, annoying people, and weak people. My hobbies are coming up with ideas for jutsu, training, coming up with new strategies, and challenging my Oni-san. My dream is more of a goal. I want to find and master my family's long-forgotten Hijutsu, kill a traitor of the clan, and track down all the members of the Akatsuki and kill them. Said Chiba. He was decked out in long black pants with blue lines running down them. His shirt was an undershirt and he wore his headband on his arm. His hair was black, went down to his shoulders, and he had hazel eyes. Griot, another me, and hormone-obsessed fangirl, and a Sasuke wannabe. Well, since you told me your names anyway, I might as well tell you what we are doing tomorrow. We will be taking a test. 2 tests to be exact. Naruto said as smirked slightly, planning on adding a hidden test in there. Nani? We just graduated. Why do we have to do more tests? The academy test was just to see if you had the abilities to be shinobi, and not just some boulder in the road. My tests have a 33 failure possibility. That's less than half the odds I had on my test," said Naruto with his eyes closed, half tempted to go to sleep. "Be at training ground 14 at 7 o'clock sharp." And then he poofed away. "So he's our new sensei? Looks kinda weak," said Idatsu to his teammates. "Yurusei, I don't feel like dealing with you." "Yeah," Chiba said as he walked away from the group. "Chiba-kun, Matt, do you want to go on a date?" begged Meimei as she followed him like an obedient lapdog. Chiba's house. Walking through the door to his house, Chiba noticed his mother cooking and father reading the newspaper. Closing the door, he set his bag on the couch and started to climb the stairs. Hearing the door close, Mrs. Kuroda turned toward her son. "Kai-chan, how was team selection day?" Stopping from his flight up the stairs, the dark-haired male groaned inwardly at the nickname. Going back down the stairs, he sat on the couch. "Fine, I was put on Team 7. Mr. Kuroda tensed when he heard that team. Nearly all of Sasuke-sama's generation, some below it, and many of the older, had heard of the Team 7 and their fates. The Fist Team 7 had its member killed off by Orochimaru 11 years ago. Jiraiya trained Anko, Minato, and Josuke. Anko was taken by Orochimaru, Minato, later killed by sealing Kyuubi, and Josuke gone missing, led to Minato's team of Kakashi, Rin, and Uchiha Obito, later lost 2 members, one through disappearance, and another through death. Kakashi leading Sasuke-sama's Team 7 had the last Uchiha betray the village and Naruto banished. His wife noticed this, and decided to change the subject before her son noticed. "Su-ka, Yash, who are your teammates?" Not noticing his father tensing, he answered. "Shigur Idatsu, Kyukai Meimei, and our sensei is Uzumaki Naruto." Silence filled the household as sizzling and jaws dropping to the floor from the 2 parents were the only sounds that could be heard. N-N-N-N-N-A-N-N-N-N-I. Kyukai household. Humming a merry tune, Kyukai skipped into her home, when she immediately smelt burning. Knowing what it was, she walked over to a shelf to her left and pulled out a fire extinguisher. Hurrying into the kitchen, the girl pulled out the ring and shot the oncoming foam at the oven. "Tu-san, what have I told you about using the oven?" Scratching behind his head, Meimei's only living parent gave a nervous chuckle. "Gomen, Mei-chan, but I wanted to do something special for your team selection." Giving a small thanks, Meimei returned the extinguisher to its normal place, and went to go help clean the kitchen from her beloved father's burnt cooking gone flame. "So, Mei-chan, how was school?" Chuckling at the childish question, the daughter of the man answered. "I have Chiba-kun, Idatsu Baka, and my sensei is Uzumaki Naruto." Widening his eyes, Mr. Kyukai looked at his daughter who had yet to notice. Smiling, he spoke up. "You lucked out." "What mean? I saw Uzumaki Naruto fight at his first Chunin exams. Made it all the way to the finals he did. He's the only one to beat the Godem Case Cage in battle besides Deidara of Iwa, who's a member of Akatsuki. His Chunin exams was the first one he was ever offered, and it was also the one where Orochimaru launched his attack on Konoha and killed Sandaime-sama." Meimei looked at her father in awe as he continued to clean up. Nearly everyone in Konoha knew of Gaara's strength, and this Uzumaki had defeated him? The young lady had begun to see the man in a whole new light as she rolled this information around in her head. "Don't tell Idatsu, but your sensei is the Byako, Mei-chan." Idatsu's apartment. With a sigh, Idatsu walked in his small apartment. He knew someone else lived in it before. There was spoiled milk, scrolls on ninjutsu and chakra control, and words scratched into the wood outside the door, long before he moved in. Walking over to the fridge, Idatsu pulled out a bottle of water and headed off towards the bedroom. Now, Idatsu knew this place almost inside out. He knew where he put stuff, and he knew when someone else moved it. However, he didn't know there was a loose floorboard on the way to his room. When he heard a squeaking, he looked down and he saw it. A slight shine beneath the floor. Getting on his knees, the orange-haired boy picked up the board and reached in. What he pulled out was not what he expected. It was a broken picture frame. Taking out the picture and blowing the dust off of it, he looked at it. There were 3 genins in it. A pink-haired one, a black-haired one, a blonde-haired one, and a gray-haired one. Idatsu immediately recognized everyone but the blonde. "This is a picture of Sasuke-sama," Sakura-sama, and Kakashi-sama. Pocketing the picture, Idatsu told himself to take it to the meeting in the morning. Training ground 14 to 7 o'clock. Arriving at the grounds, Idatsu noticed Chiba leaning up against a tree in his normal attire, as was Meimei. Both seemed lost in thought. Ohio, Teme, Meimei-chan. Breaking out of their musing, both previously mentioned genin looked up to see their third teammate. About to slip back into musing after saying hello, that were once again distracted when the orange-haired male started ruffling through his backpack. "Oi, orangutan, what are you doing?" "Ah, ha, I found it. Guys, get over here, I have something I want to show you." Idatsu held the photo of the former Team 7, not that they knew, in front of them. "That's Sasuke-sama, and Sakura-sama, and Kakashi-sama too. He taught both of them?" Looking over to Meimei, Idatsu shook his head. "I know that, it's the other person. Who do you think he is?" Unknown to them, Kakashi had walked by when he heard them say his name and decided to poof in front of them after the question was asked. "What's going on?" said the copy nin as he shoved his head between the three. "Ah, Kakashi-sama, Anyo, who is this?" Taking a look at the photo, Kakashi's one visible eye widened. This didn't go unnoticed by the three. Lifting up his headband, Kakashi checked to see if it was a genjutsu or not, and then looked at Idatsu. "Where did you get this?" Sweating, he answered shakily with, I found NDDI in my apartment." The group waited for the older ninja's reply, but it never came. He disappeared and only left a single piece of paper where he last was. Asked Naruto. Training ground 14 to 9 o'clock. "Where the hell is he?" shouted the purple-haired female of Team 7 as she looked around for their blonde-haired sensei. "It's been 2 fucking hours. Where the hell is he? Did that fucker oversleep or some kinda shit? That motherfucking bastard better HSVE a fucking good reason for this." Meimei-chan, do you always get like this when you're mad?" said Idatsu in a quivering voice. "Shut up, doby fucker. I don't like people who are late. I got here at 7 fucking in the morning, asshole. He better get here before I fuck up his face." And through all this shouting, Chiba was sleeping like a baby. "Yo," said Naruto to the group, scaring the crap out of Idatsu and Meimei and waking Chiba up in the process. "You're late, Gomen. I was out buying supplies when I walked past a river. Then I saw a fish drowning, so I had to give it CPR, but I didn't know how. So I went to learn CPR in 1 hour or less movie and walked back to my hotel room to watch it. When it was done, I went back to the river to find that the fish was gone. So I had to find and then give it CPR." Naruto said to the group, giving a very Kakashi-like excuse. "Liar." Ignoring the enraged students, he motioned them to walk over to the 3 stumps. "I've hidden 5 objects around Konoha. Each one has the name Uzumaki on it. You have 1 hour to find them, and then find me in 30 more minutes after you found the objects. After that, I'll give you the test my sensei gave me." "Matt, Naruto-sensei, do you know who this is?" asked Idatsu as he pulled out the old photo. Widening his eyes, he decided to give them a bit of motivation. "I'll tell you if you pass my tests." Blurring out of existence, Naruto went to the Konoha graveyard. "Where'd he go? Baka, how the hell am I supposed to know? Yurusei, I'm going to find those objects. If you have any techniques that can help us find them, use them." "Hi, Chiba-kun," said Meimei as she followed the black-haired male, just before the unexpected happened. She fell in a hole. Filled with bugs. Stink bugs to be exact. "Ah, ew, 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 I hate bugs," she yelled as Idatsu and Chiba plugged their ears from the screaming banshee. Then, Naruto's voice rang out from inside the entire clearing. "This is a recording. If this had been triggered, one of you has fallen into my bug genjutsu trap. There will many more traps awaiting you as you progress." Time skip. 59 minutes after whole incident. Some of them sported burn marks while others were trying to get goop out of their hair. Cuts decorated their bodies as Chiba was covered in flour and Meimei in mud. Idatsu had a bunch of twigs in his standing on end hair from being on the receiving end of a Raiden jutsu after getting one of the items. Had crispy white hair from a Kaiden jutsu, and the goop seemed to harden if wet for Miami. All of them were pissed and ready to kill if they saw the blonde again. How dare they do that to them? Sure, Chiba was the rookie of the year and Idatsu was the dead last, But they at least tried, and what do they get? 2 Kaiden jutsu in the shape of rabid ducks chasing them for 30 minutes. Then, a poof of smoke appeared in front of the three as they all tensed. After an agonizingly long moment, it revealed a orange and yellow toad. Ohio. Naruto told me, since you three most likely pissed at him, to go look for him since you found the items. Yeah. And then the toad poofed away to wherever summons go when they go poof. Silence befell upon the three as they stared at the spot where the toad previously occupied. Was that a talking frog? I think it was a toad. Oh, gross, gross, gross. Slimy toad. Turning their attention to the third member of their team, Idatsu and Chiba just sweat dropped. Why the hell was Mei screaming about a toad that was gone? Mei, snap out of it. Now, we have 30 minutes to find Naruto-sensei, or we fail. Where could he be? Thinking back to everything they knew about him, one sentence flew through Chiba's mind. My late wife is dead. That's it. Shocked by the normally quiet boy's outburst, Mei and Idatsu both asked what he was talking about. At the introduction yesterday, he said his wife was dead. He might be at the graveyard. And that's where they rushed to. Konoha graveyard. If Team 7 thought they could sneak up on Naruto, they had another thing coming. He could feel their chakra signatures from a mile away. There they saw him, just standing at a grave with his hair blowing in the wind. Then they saw him turn around and just smile. Well, guys, I guess you found me. So I guess you're gonna have to take the bell test, he said evilly as he walked towards the three in a sway. Team 7 knew something bad was going to happen as they clung to each other. Some random bar in Konoha. That was some good sake, said Mitarashi Anko as she set the bottle down. Oh, she had heard the funny rumor going around town, and decided to have a drink. Uzumaki Naruto, the Byakko? Taking on a genin team? Hey, that was a laugh. The purple head began pondering about what had made pick up a team. He was a mercenary, so did they pay him to do it? Probably. Ohio, Anko-chan, said Kurenai as she plopped down next to her friend. Oh, Ohio, Kurenai-chan. Anko replied as she went back into her musing. Noticing her friend was going back into thinking, she asked, Oro? Daijobu ka, Anko-chan? And then she thought, oh. It's a boy, isn't? Now that fully caught Anko's attention. Spitting out the sake she had in her mouth, she looked horror-struck at Kurenai's smirking face. It is. I knew it, exclaimed the genjutsu mistress as she hopped up and down. That's not it. Did you know that Uzumaki Naruto may have taken up a genin team, Kur-chan? Catching the full attention of the bar, liquor was being spat everywhere as several voices shouted. The Byakko is taking on a team? The demon is taking on a team? The Dobi is taking on a team? Sasuke was in the bar trying to drown himself in sake to attempt to forget his defeat at the blonde's hands, along with the loss of the Dedo Kaika Hana. How had the boy gotten so strong? To suppress him into fear in only one technique was just amazing. Then, he overheard what Anko was talking about and decided to ask the last said question above. Turning her head to the last Uchiha, Anko smirked. Yep. I bet you the council is paying him to do it. I heard he has Shigur Idatsu, Kyukai Mei, and Kuroda Chiba. With a nod, yep, I think that's right. Sasuke only had one thing fly through his head at that time. The Dobi has beaten me at something again. Training Ground 14. The Team 7 genin candidates arrived back at the training ground to see their possible sensei. Looking up at the oncoming group, Naruto began smirking. Do you know why my test has a 33 failure rate? After seeing the shaking of their small heads, he started to explain. I don't believe in specialized teams, like the former Team 8, which was in Recon Team, or the constant Ino Shikacho trios, or even the combat specialized teams, like the one I was in. The first test was to see if you could be a Recon team. The finding of me was your information gathering and processing skills, which you could reach if you didn't have the intel I gave you. The third test is in combat. Whether you pass or fail this one, you're still going to be Team 7. You need to pass 2 of my 3 tests in order to pass. But, if you want to know who that kid in the picture is, you have to pass this. Pulling out 2 bells and fastening to his belt, he quickly pushed the button on the timer. He shouted, You 3 have to get the say bells from me before 3 hours is up, begin. All 3 teammates jumped into the surrounding brush, or at least 2 of them did. Apparently Chiba had improvised. He took out a small bamboo pole, about the size of a straw, and jumped into the river, using the bamboo to breath. Meimei was to his left, preparing to hurl shuriken at him, while Idatsu had jumped out of the brush and slid into a fighting position. You're not going to use stealth? Hardening his stare, Idatsu did something none expected him to do. He used logic. You most likely knew where we were. You're a ninja, and you said that ninja shouldn't be specialized in something, and thus, you must have decent recon and tracking abilities. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto thought back to the files he read. According to the records, he was the dead last. I won't underestimate him. You're most likely going to hold back on us, since we are only genin, and so we stand no real chance against you. Smiling at the orange-haired boy's insight, Naruto wondered, I can feel Chiba radiating anger, probably from Idatsu saying he can't beat me. Meimei is in heat, and wondering why I'm hiding in my strength. I've got a good bunch. Suddenly, droplets of water rained down from the sky as Chiba descended upon Naruto with a kunai in hand. Grabbing the young man's wrist, Naruto flung him towards a tree, where Meimei jumped out of the brush and started using hand signs. Atoen no Shinkuru, mirage of the past. Naruto widened his eyes when he heard the girl say the B-rank genjutsu. Thinking on his feet, he countered with a genjutsu of his own design. Ninpo. Oni no Badi. Ninja art. Body of the demon, yelled Naruto, easily using an A-rank self-made genjutsu. Then, in the eyes of his students, his body exploded into bats before it materialized behind Meimei. But this didn't mean he escaped Meimei's genjutsu. When the young girl turned around, to Naruto it was like seeing a ghost. The Atoen no Shinkuru, based on your efficiency with it, pulled someone that you cared for from your memories, and morphs the user's body in the victim's eyes, to resemble the person. Judging by her report, Meimei could only go back within 1 or 2 weeks at most, so when she turned around, Naruto thought he was seeing Sayuri. Suddenly, Naruto remembered the day he first met her. Flashback no jutsu. An 18-year-old Naruto was walking down a plain old dirt road. He had recently obtained his second Jusan Oni blade. Apparently, it was called the Wise Man of the Mad. He figured out that it was in the Forbidden City, trapped inside one of the pillars of the Rishaman gates. It was one hell of a bitch to get out. Now, he was traveling as a mercenary, wielding 2 seeable blades while the Oni blades were sealed inside his cloak. Seeing a house in the distance, he picked up his pace. Maybe this was an inn, he was tired. But upon closer inspection, he found out that while it was an inn, it was on fire, and a number of figures were standing outside it. Shushing closer, he hid in a tree and watched an exchange. Alright you bitch, hand it over. We told you this would happen if you didn't give the sword to us. Yelled a giant man, who was wearing armor plates around his body. He seemed fat, and many residents that escaped with their lives were watching with fearful eyes. No, this blade belongs to my Aniki. He told me to watch it while he was out, shouted a petite woman as she held the sword closer to her body. Angry at her stubbornness, the giant backhanded her, sending the lady flying across the field. The members of his gang, which stood behind him, all laughed when she tried to stand up. Drawing his sword from his waist, the bandit, to Naruto's eyes, was preparing to kill her. Well, if you won't give it to me, I guess I'll just have to kill you for it. Bringing it down in an arch, the closed her eyes, awaiting death. When she heard gasps escape from the mouths of the former residents, she opened them to see a blonde-haired man blocking the giant's sword with the back of his hand. Your blade is screaming in pain. It doesn't want top be used like this, that it doesn't. Ag Kenshin saved the day music. And you little runt? Bringing his blade up once again, he prepared to smash the blonde. Break free of your chains, white angel, and spread your pale white wings. Bestow you blessing as a curse upon this pitiful mortal as he blood is sent to Rishaman. First dance. Dance of the moon, yelled the black and white cloaked yellow man as he cut his palm, spreaded the blood on the back of his blade, and lined it up against his elbow. Whispering to the girl, he said, you'd best move. Jumping at the giant, who was just now bringing his blade down, it looked as if Naruto passed right through him. Dust flew everywhere as the giant smashed barren ground. It didn't even hurt the boss. Yelled the gang grunts, before they noticed blood spewing from the humanoid giant as he fell to the ground. The Dance of the Moon delivers 4 slices in less than 5 moments. Only 2 types of steel can survive using it. He was dead before he knew it, said Naruto as the blade he used shattered into a million pieces. Dropping the hilt, Naruto walked over to the girl who was clutching the blade, staring wide at him. The grunts had run away at the realizing the death of their boss, and residents went back to salvaging what could be salvaged. Smiling at her, Naruto asked, "Hello, what's your name?" Hesitantly, she answered, Saishi Sayuri. That was love at first sight. End flashback no jutsu. He later found out the bandits heard that Sayuri's Aniki owned one of the Jusan Oni Yeba, and the bandits had wanted to take it. Her brother later came back, and left his sister to him. But they had made a promise to meet each other again. He narrowed his eyes when the genjutsu finally wavered, and Naruto quickly dispelled it. But, he knew something was wrong when he didn't see any of his students. Closing his eyes, he searched for them as he felt them on the edge of his senses. No, they couldn't escape the Byakko. Idatsu was keeping watch as Mei caught her breath. That jutsu took a lot out of her. Chiba had rushed off, saying he didn't need help, but the day Idatsu abandoned Mei was the day Kami-sama was proven real. He felt a chakra presence enter the clearing, and expecting it to be Chiba with his head held low, he lowered his guard. "I told you, you wouldn't stand a chance against him alone," said the midget, "but you never listen, do you?" "Now, I have no idea who you're talking about, Idatsu," rang a voice from the shadows. Shock entered all of the young man's senses, for he knew Chiba never called him by his name. Panicking, he jumped back to Mei, who was readying herself for combat. Stepping out of the shadows, Naruto smirked. Well, looks like Idatsu understands without knowing it. And so does Mei. Taking a step forward, he noticed a kunai flying at him. Letting it graze his cheek, he wiped some of the drawn blood onto his palm and summoned the Kichigai no Tetsujin, wise man of the mad. Wiping the blood on the blunt side of the blade, he recited the poem while drastically holding back his strength. Break free of your chains, white angel, and spread your pale white wings. Bestow you blessing as a curse upon this pitiful mortal as he blood is sent to Rishaman. First dance. Dance of the Moon. Charging at the thrower of the kunai, which was Chiba making a distraction for his teammates to get away, clenched his eyes, waiting for the worse. He knew that what he just did betrayed all his clan's beliefs of keeping yourself alive, no matter what the cost. At first, he thought his teammates' lives meant nothing, but he had no idea what made his change of heart. He knew he would never be able to fulfill his dreams now. He only hoped his teammates wouldn't be stupid enough not to continue challenging this man. He was just too good. Chiba held only one regret though, he'd never be able to kill that man. The one who took everything from him. However, when he heard the clashing of metal, the black-haired boy opened one eye slowly. Remember what I said to you the first time we met, Chiba Teme? I'll never admit loss to you. Not until I die first, said Idatsu as he held his kunai in front of the heavenly blade strugglingly. Naze, Dobi? I gave you the perfect chance to escape. I remember the saying that was etched into the wood of my apartment by the previous inhabitant. Those who disobey orders are trash, but those who throw away their comrades are lower that trash. I won't leave you behind, Chiba, even if you leave us behind. Now Mei-chan. As quick as she could, the young girl charged at Naruto, who realized their plan. Reaching for the bells, she barely missed them when Naruto jumped back. Sending the Tetsujin back into the cloak, he smiled at the panting group. I'm surprised, guys and girl. I thought you'd never understand the meaning of this test. My team nearly failed it. Does anyone here understand the meaning of it? Teamwork, Naruto, teamwork. Arching a brow, Naruto saw Kakashi step out from behind a tree. I was wondering who was there. I never bothered to check once I got here. So Kakashi-san, Daijobu ka? Pulling his nose out of his newest book, Icha Assassins, the cycloptic nin asked, You say something, Naruto? Sighing, Naruto turned back to the confused Team 7. Well, Kakashi is right. This was about teamwork. There was no way you could, alone, get even a single bell. If I was going all out, Chiba would be dead, and Idatsu would find himself without his head. He explained. Closing his eyes, Naruto walked over to a tree and leaned against it as Kakashi put his book in his pocket. Those words you said, Idatsu, were the words of Konoha's fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Looking up towards the fourth's face, Naruto gave a small smile with sad eyes. But I know people who don't listen to that. Kakashi, your father was the Konoha no Shiro Kiba, White Fang of Konoha, correct? Wincing slightly, Kakashi gave a small nod. He saved his comrades instead of completing a mission. Completely closing his eyes, Naruto said, if it weren't for Kakashi's father, Konoha would still be sending out ninja left and right, not caring if they fell, and would thus still be under a dictatorship by the Lord of the Fire Country. But enough with the negative stuff. Team 7 starts taking on missions tomorrow, said Naruto to the wide-eyed team, beaming his bright smile. Cheers echoed through the training ground as Meimei and Idatsu jumped for joy, while Chiba just gave a small happy smile, before laughing with his teammates. After the recently made Team 7, only Naruto and Kakashi remained on the field. Would you like to go to the graveyard, Naruto? Said Naruto to his former student. But, I just wish I knew why. Why did she have to die? Sayuri, said Naruto, barely above a whisper as a tear ran down his scarred face. Kakashi could only look at his mourning as he put his book away. Such a thing didn't need to be out during a moment. Naruto's hotel room. Laying down in the rented bed, Naruto couldn't help but notice the missing warmth that was next to him. All he felt was cold. Nothing was there, not anymore. Naruto's mindscape. Jusan Oni Yaba's chambers. Opening his eyes, Naruto took in his surroundings. He was in his mindscape, but it was the door of the Jusan Oni Yaba instead of Kyuubi's waterways. Standing up, he saw 3 figures looking at him. One had angel wings, a black tank top and pants, gold bracers, and a swan around his shoulders looking at him intently as the chain around its neck led to the angel's left arm. His hair was short and brown, and his right eye was gray while another was black. Another was a Shinigami look-alike, look up his image. And another was a plant-like woman, with emerald green eyes and nails like thorns. An elegant dress covered her features, as she looked at him with an apathetic look. May I ask, why the entities of the Jusan Oni Yaba have called me here? The angel spoke first. We have called you here to explain our price, as you most well know. Now, Soren-san, don't spoil all the fun. Called the entity of the Kaika. The one known as Soren, who was the entity of the Tetsujin, glared at the plant-like woman. You want him to commit suicide? Really, I thought you had more compassion, Flora. Enough of your petty bickering. Just explain it to the boy so I may sleep, said the ghost-like entity of the Burkan Naraku, Yamakaze. Very well Yamakaze. Naruto-san, as you know, for each of the Jusan Oni Yaba you collect, you must pay a price. Explained Soren, you've paid mine and Yamakaze's prices, so all that left was Flora's. Now, she wanted Sayuri, to add to her garden of souls that power her blade. So don't go killing yourself, just because you think you're parted from your dear wife. All you have to do is learn the secrets of the Dedo Kaika Hana. I've nothing more to say. Feeling the pull of being thrown from his mindscape, Naruto let tears of semi-happiness run down his face. Unknown location. Same time as the Trawling Ground sad moment. A figure sat on a rock as he flipped through the Konoha news when a certain article caught his attention. Uzumaki Sayuri, married to Uzumaki Naruto, is murdered 5 days ago, murmured the person as their fist clenched the paper. Throwing it to the ground, the man stood up before grabbing a wrapped package, and setting off towards Konoha. I trusted you with her, Naruto? Konoha. 2 weeks after forming of Team 7. Black Rose is in position. Fox Lover that loves pie is in position. Why the hell did we let Idatsu come up with the codenames again? Just say yours. Fine, boy with stick-up ass that is emo is in position. Alright, when I give the signal, we attack, said Black Rose as she pulled out a kunai. 1, 2, 3. HHHHHHHHISSSSSSSS. Ow, 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 ow. Get it off, shouted Idatsu as Naruto appeared in the clearing they chased the target to. D-rank mission. Capture Old Tora, complete with minor injuries, said Naruto as he sweat dropped at Idatsu's claw-scratched face. Mission office. As Team 7 walked through the door, a bit FA lady came and took the cat. She took the cat, it wailed like a bat. A big fat lady came and took the cat. She took the cat, it wailed like a bat. This is a form of an old nursery rhyme my father told me when I was little. Oh, you're too old to be wandering off like that, my precious Tora, said the grey-haired wife of the Fire Lord as she strangle-hugged the cat, while it futilely tried to escape. You know, I'm beginning to see why the cat ran away, and I sympathize for it, said Mei as she stared at the odd scene. I felt that belonged somewhere else. 3, 2, 1. As soon as Naruto finished counting down, that cat keeled over dead. No, my precious Tora, she is dead, wailed the fat old lady as she dropped the cat to cover her crying eyes. As soon as Tora was dropped and landed on the ground, she used her 29th life to try and escape again. Author Sama is being nice to the cat. After looking for the cat again, they found an Iwa by using a tracking device, Tora. And Iwa didn't let Konoha inside. Oh, well. Flipping through a list of D-rank missions, Tsunade called them out. Now, we have weeding Mrs. Fubuki's garden, fixing Mrs. Fubuki's roof, cleaning the village river, walking the Inuzuka dogs. No, give us a real mission Tsunade Baba. Dodging a punch from the steaming blonde, Naruto talked again. I'm tired of these baby missions. Academy students could do these and increase village funds while Genin went on C-rank missions. So, gimme a mission worthy of my team's awesome skill. Fine, Gozu, I'm giving you a C-rank mission to Kirigakure. They're still in their civil war, and the Mizukage has requested protection. Apparently, an assassin has been hired to bring him down. Taking up the mission before she could change it, the Byako pulled his team out of the office and hurried to their homes. Konoha East Gate. After making cage bushins to make them pack at lightning speeds, Team 7 found themselves at the East Gate, heading off towards Kiri, when unknown to them, a man with a giant package strapped to his back entered from the west. Konoha Central Plaza. A man in a black and red cargo pants and a black tank top along with a red overcoat stood in the center of the plaza of Konoha. Standing next to him, he balanced a package in the shape of a cross on the ground, while asking if someone had seen Uzumaki Naruto. Yeah, I saw him and his Genin team leaving through the East Gate about an hour ago. Thanking him, the man took his package, hefted it onto his back, and set off to the east. Kirigakure no Sato. Mizukage's office -3 days later. Team 7 stood in front of a fat man wearing the light blue Mizukage robes as they sat down with their packs next to them. It is good to see you, bodyguards. While I'm not sure of the Genin's abilities, I'm sure the Byako can handle it. Laughed the fat man, before a sweating Jonin came bursting through the door. Mizukage-sama. There's been an attack at the gates, he yelled as he panted. Standing up, Team 7 and the Mizukage started for the gates. -20 minutes later, fire was everywhere as a lone man stood in the center of the wreckage. Bodies laid around like a pool as their blood dyed the earth red. Next to him was a bloody bandaged package, impaled in the ground as a daichi lay in its pure white sheath. His eyes were closed, covered by shaggy brown hair, before he snapped his up at the sound of footsteps approaching. A small glare graced his onyx eyes. 4 people had to hold in their lunch as they looked on at the carnage in front of them as they arrived at the gates of Kiri. Bodies laid scattered, some intact, some not. Naruto had his attention focused on the one person beginning to stand up as they pushed themselves off the cross behind them. A 3-symbol necklace jangled with each movement, as a figure of Buddha, the Christian cross, and the Celtic cross knocked against one another. Steeling themselves, the Genin, Chiba, Mei, and Idatsu all started to pull out kunai, just before Naruto held his black and white cloaked arm in front of them. Guard the Mizukage, you stand no chance against this foe, he said before he started the Zeiichi Seiban. Uzumaki Naruto, I've been looking for you, today is the day I make you pay. Turning to their sensei, the members of Team 7 only saw a look of sadness enter Naruto's ocean blue eyes. It's been a while, hasn't it, Saishi, Gakido? It's been a while since I've seen the sheath of the Tenpai no Kyojaku, said Naruto as he braced himself for what was about to come. Gakido looked at the sky as he thought back in his past to all the good times he had with the blonde in front of him. Ironic, isn't it? You're the last person I would have wanted to kill, he said before snapping his gaze back to the Yeba wielder in front of him. But someone must pay, and it'll be you. You failed to protect her like I asked. The three genins were wondering what they were talking about before the Mizukage said, "This is a battle of brothers, don't interfere." Gakido drew the tenpai as he tossed the sheath next to the cross. And then he charged. Not one to miss a beat, Naruto quickly sent the Zeichi flying at the speeding brunette, who fainted left before rolling towards Naruto. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Fire style. Grand fireball, yelled Naruto as he sent the flying ball of fire at the rolling death. Damn it, yelled Gakido as he launched himself up into the air as his onyx eyes looked down at the ground, before he heard one of the genin gasp. Naruto-sensei, shouted Meimei. That man, he's blind. Naruto widened his azure eyes as he looked at the landing man. What, don't tell me he. Throwing his hair back, Gakido looked on in eternal darkness. I told when you saved my sister, I would find the red cross of Ifrit that belonged to my family, and find out how to survive its effects. This was the price. Naruto grunted as he eyed the bandaged cross. He had a feeling that was it. However, he didn't have much time to think before a pain scraped his senses and blood flew everywhere. Gakido smirked as he felt the tenpai pierce the flesh of Naruto as he pivoted to follow through with a slash to the blonde's back. Naruto cancelled the Zeichi as fast as he could and quickly placed the Burka between him and the oncoming devil blade. TCH, Naruto panted as he looked at the blade that injured him. It was a grayish steel with a midnight line running down to a yellow handle. Unlike the other Jusan Oni Yeba, this was shaped more like a katana than the others. Its hilt was a sun that conjured fire as the guard, and it held the face of the goddess Amaterasu in its handle. Then, much to the surprise of everyone, Naruto pulled out the kaika in conjunction with the Burka and Tetsujin, putting two of them in one hand and the other in his right. Two of the swords are pointing opposite directions and the other is in normal position. So he's go 3 now, I can feel their power. Gakido didn't waste any time rushing at the blonde, who rushed to meet him as well. Harafaya, hellfire, shouted Gakido as the flames of hell danced across his blade as he charged at Naruto before jumping up. Gekko Denka, moonlight charge, called Naruto as he readied the blades for impact against the burning blade, leaving a trail of moonlight from his swords as he jumped to meet the Saishi air. Majinringazen, demonic chaos, came the ringing voice of Gakido as a wave of energy erupted from his body, sending Naruto hurtling towards the ground, and him continuing his deadly fall. Naruto back-flipped in midair before he crashed, to look up and see Gakido falling towards him with his blade raised. Naruto knew one thing now. Gakido may be blind, but he made you hell of an opponent. Damn you, Hidden Shuku, Rising Falcon, Naruto said as he jumped back into the air, waiting for Gakido to get closer to the ground. Gakido landed on the ground with a small tap, and then heard air being displaced. Widening his blind eyes, he quickly turned around and shouted, Gurinkin, Hellpire. Naruto began spinning the Burka Naraku around when he saw Gakido launch a ball of condensed fire at him. When the fireball came in contact with the blade, it exploded, knocking Naruto slightly off course, and giving him a nasty burn in the process. The burn that he received wasn't what was bothering Naruto, nor the gash in his ribs. It was the fact that his brother-in-law had done something so dark, so sinister, just to find a family heirloom. He knew that the Red Cross cannot be stopped after 3 times using it. Yet, Naruto felt oddly proud to know this man, who was a pure samurai with semi-ninja abilities, would go this far. Don't get sidetracked, Naruto. Tensa. Heavenly chains. Suddenly, Naruto found himself being pulled to the ground as Gakido held a half-Taurus seal. The gasps from his genin team and the worried grunt from the Mizukage confirmed his suspicions. Gakido was planning on using one of his killing techniques this early, or so he thought. Mashiro Tenshi. Shikiaku Inai Munashi Omoide. Pure white angel. Falling within empty memories, said the red and black overcoated air as he held his blade to his side, as it took the form of an angel. The power to bring forth the entity that resides in the blade, so he succeeded, murmured Naruto as he looked on at the pale-skinned goddess. Gakido swung the blade in a sideways arc as the pale angel took on a burning silhouette as it flew at the chained-down Naruto. Naruto's blue eyes widened as a bead of sweat ran down his cheek. He began placing a chakra barrier in his chest area, just before the chains around him shattered, just before the angel hit him. Naruto wasn't quick enough to jump out of harm's way, but all the angel did was enter him. Thinking the technique failed, Naruto summoned the gleaming Tetsujin into his hand as he prepared one of the moves the brunette taught him. Yon Tagate Kanpasu. Yon Kei's Oni. Hibiware Kei's no Gunryo. Four-pointed compass. Four-wind demons. Soldiers of the cracking wind, Naruto said as he held the Tetsujin in front of him, blade facing the sky, as it duplicated into four separate blades. Attaching chakra strings to them, Naruto hurled them at the brunette, whose eyes were closed. Gakido felt the blades coming ever closer. The hurricanes that were starting to form around them distorted the air violently as he sighed in his head. Did Naruto really think he didn't have a counter technique for that? It was his second strongest attack with an Oni Yeba. Some of you might recognize the next tech name. Looking at the blades that were flying towards him, Gakido pointed the tenpai at the oncoming blades that had many hurricanes brewing around them, as he closed his eyes. Opening his blind eyes, he murmured, Kengai Doji, sword-wielding child shaman king. Naruto narrowed his azure eyes as he saw the brunette close his eyes, open them, and then murmur something. Quickly changing his gaze to the swords, that had many hurricanes around them, he noticed cracks forming on the wind and he smirked. The blades flew ever closer as the wind around them exploded, revealing four figures, one carrying two chakrams, another with two axes, one with a scythe, and one with many a kunai and shuriken. Before they could get even close to Gakido, a dark flash of dark light erupted in front of both of the people, before taking the shape of a small child. The child was wearing a white mask with black slits for eye holes and had a sword sheath at his waist. The sword that was missing was currently positioned so all the Wind Warrior's weapons were blocked. "You summoned me?" came a soft voice from the child as he moved his slightly to face Gakido. Gakido stared at the ground as he nodded softly to the voice. He knew the end was coming soon. His technique would soon take effect, then, he would reveal the trump card to end it all. Turning his gaze back to the Windmen, the child smirked beneath his mask. "Though you may just be chakra, today's your," he said before disappearing and reappearing behind the Axeman. "Rather unlucky day," the boy said before he took his nodaichi and sliced through the Axeman, turning him into air. Quickly turning around, the scythe man swung the blade at the place the child was before he sidestepped a downward slice from the child. Hefting his right leg into the air, the child did a spin kick that knocked away everyone else. When he slowed down, the boy noticed a couple things. One thing was that the other three remaining wind people were taking defense position outside the blue gates of Kirigakure. Another thing was that his necklace was jingling. And the last was that the genins' mouths were on the ground as the Mizukage examined Gakido with a critical eye. Suddenly, he sidestepped as a chakram flew by him and he sped toward the chakram man. Bringing his blade in an arc, he prepared to slice through him before the, let's call them scythe, chars, chakram, and shogun, kunai. Shogun hurled a handful of shuriken at him. Sai quickly took a run at Jazin, while he dodged the shuriken and turned his attention to Shogun. Lifting his scythe into the air, he impaled it into the ground before pulling back, making a small fissure in the ground. Then, out of the fissure, came a number of white and black flames that swarmed around Jazin as they rammed into his back. With a grunt from being hit by the flames, Jazin sported not many injuries, besides the fact his back was fire. Taking off his mask, which oddly was sharp on the edges, he threw it at Sai as the man was too slow to bring the scythe to block, and was then dissipated into air. Standing up shakily, you could see what he looked at underneath his mask. Onyx eyes that had seen the falls of many friends and deaths of many were cold underneath elegant black eyebrows. A mop of shaggy black hair covered most of his forehead, but you could see an X-shaped scar on the upper right part of it. Baby fat was on his cheeks, but there was little of it. Turning to Chars, he faced a flying chakram coming at his face, but he quickly pulled up his blade to block, sending it clattering to the ground. Slipping into a run, he began running at the inwardly cursing Chars. Jumping into the air, Jazin placed the edge of his blade in front of him, facing Chars, who was beginning to spin the other double-edged chakram in his hand, and was about to jump into the air. Chars jumped into the air to meet Jazin in a clash where one of them would be dissipated. Spinning the chakram faster in his hand, Chars placed it where Jazin's blade and it would meet when they clashed, and he jumped into the air. Shogun pulled out 6 shuriken and placed them in between his fingers, as he took of it where Jazin would clash with Char's, and blurred out of existence, waiting for the right moment to attack. Char's and Jazin clashed in air, sets of eyes watching as energy, their life force, rolled off them in waves as Jazin began winning the battle, pushing Char's double-edged chakram into him, dissipating him into air. Shogun, now deciding this was a good time to strike, appeared behind Jazin and thrusted the 6 shuriken into the entity, before Onyx Eye narrowed in and a hand reached up and brushed across a necklace. Shogun's eyes widened in pain, as he gave a choked cough from being impaled by 3 giant blades. Sanhigane Oniboshi. Kujo, 3 steel demon stars. Destruction, came the raggedy voice of Jazin as he disappeared into a dark mist, signifying that his battle with the Wind People's battle was over. Gakido and Naruto were now locked in a stare-blind stare competition before Naruto clutched his head, and fell panting to the ground, resting on one knee. What the? Everything's spinning, Gakido, what do you do to me? Naruto raged in his mind. Gakido smirked as he stared on in eternal darkness. My techniques finally kicked in. Did you think that I'd create a technique that did nothing, but was just for show? No, of course not. He said. The pure white angel doesn't affect the body, it affects the mind. He said, pointing a finger at his own head for effect. Idatsu, Meimei, and Chiba stared at their kneeling sensei, fear and worry clearly evident in their faces. Akashi no Gakido, Red Lion Gakido. I finally remember where I've seen him. The man who decimated Iwa all over a simple heirloom of the Tsuchikage, which he claimed belonged to him. Chiba had a bead of cold sweat run down the side of his face when he heard that. The Iwa decimation, the leveling of the Shengu rock. Exactly. Everything was spinning as Naruto stood up, attempting to level his vision. He could clearly see that Gakido was walking towards him, except that there was a lot of him. Balancing himself on the Tetsujin, he attempted to resist any bodily harm by pushing chakra into the parts of his body that had little skin resistance, such as his face, legs, stomach. You know that won't help you, Naruto. This next technique will end it all, he shouted, drawing amazing stores of chakra out of his body, and pushing it into the tenpai. Naruto widened his eyes as he braced himself, knowing well that Gakido didn't bluff. Mujin Kasai Oni Daitopa. Kakashi Sakurafezu, Great Fire Demon Breakthrough. Scarecrow's sacrifice I claim all rights. Gakido shouted, using one of his arguably best moves to attack the dizzy Naruto. Zeichi. Gun Daitopa. Heki Hinode, first. Force Breakthrough. False Sunrise I claim. Rang the voice of the Red Lion as he charged at the waiting Naruto, blade poised to slice. Swinging the blade upwards, as if attempting to cut him in half from the bottom up, Gakido cut the air in front of Naruto, an inch away from Naruto's nose as Gakido threw himself into the air before flipping in air, and delivering a downward slice on Naruto's shoulder. A pained grunt escaped Naruto as he refused to scream. He wouldn't give him the pleasure of knowing that Gakido succeeded in hurting him. Besides, Naruto knew that all he had to do was take a couple more blows, and he could launch a counter-attack. If he lasted that long. Gakido smirked as his feet touched the ground in front of the bleeding man. He could feel Naruto's scream fighting against the strains, but he would not bow to the pained howl. Yes, Naruto had grown from that naive boy that showed up on their burned-down inn. Yet, he still failed. Sadly, you know that I could have killed you there, Naruto. But I'm not ready for you to die yet. Sad that you locked away Kyuubi. You could use his healing powers right about now. Naidame. San Saishi Sakurafezu, Shuin no Buddha. Second. 3-priest sacrifice. Sealing of the Buddha. Rang Gakido's voice, as he hefted the tenpai onto his shoulder, and jumping away from Naruto. The tenpai then took on a glowing light as Gakido placed it front of him, pointing upwards, as it made 2 copies of itself, producing from the hilt, making an upside-down, Y-shaped star. Spinning it in front of himself, Gakido charged at the panting, bleeding, dizzy Naruto, and placed the star on the blonde's chest, and seemingly passed through him. But that thought was dismissed when blood erupted from Naruto. I'm not done, shouted Gakido as he appeared next to the cross. Sandame. Nisei. Gakido never finished his sentence. All because of a white claw sticking out of his stomach. Why you know, that why you nay never leave your back open, Gakido. You know, I'm no not one to just take crap and not do anything. Hijutsu. San Yuju Kamigami. Byako no Kanki Kai. Secret Technique. Three Beast Gods. Awakening of the White Fox release. Finished Naruto as the raging white fox behind disappeared and the tenpai fell from Gakido's hands. Flashback no Jutsu. Gakido arrived at the burned-down inn that was going under repairs. His bag dropped as he ran over to his sister, who was talking to a blonde man who was on the roof. He was told the story of how the man Naruto saved his sister. Thank you, Naruto. End flashback no Jutsu. Gakido, you always were a drunkard? Flashback no Jutsu. All the lights were turned on in the newly rebuilt inn as the music blasted and people shouted. Sayuri giggled as she saw her brother and Naruto, arms draped over each other's shoulder, laughing drunk. Gakido more so than Naruto. Sayuri, waza ya doin', this is as party, have zoom fun. Gakido shouted, clearly more drunk. Sayuri just laughed. End flashback no Jutsu. But now, you can protect Sayuri yourself. Flashback no Jutsu. Gakido pulled Naruto away from talking to his little sister, saying that he wanted to talk to him. They were standing outside of the inn, and it was past 9 o'clock. Naruto, I'm leaving soon, so I have one request. Gakido said as he turned to Naruto. Keep her safe, Naruto, or else I'll kill you, or the other way around. End flashback no Jutsu. Gakido's body hit the ground. The tenpai appeared in Naruto's hand. Then Naruto's world went black. Mizukage's residence. The light entered his sight on the edge of his vision as he opened his eyes to stare at the face of Meimei. Naruto-sensei. Guys, Naruto-sensei is awake, shouted Meimei as Idatsu and Chiba slid into the room, the Mizukage calmly walking behind them. The Mizukage took a puff from his pipe as he looked at a heavily bandaged Naruto, who fighting to push himself up, against the wishes of an arguing Meimei. So, Naruto-san, mind telling us how you know aka she no Gakido? Blonde locks of hair fell over azure eyes as they shadowed fling tears. I'd rather not talk about it, Naruto said before wiping his eyes. Anyways, where is Gakido? Ah, right, about that. After you passed out, we took you here. When I went to retrieve Gakido's body, it was gone. And so was the cross. The Mizukage said, taking another puff from his pipe. There was a trail of blood, so I think that he's still alive, or that someone came and took his body, along with the cross. A hitched breath came from Naruto as he stared wide-eyed at the blue-robed Mizukage. There were only 3 people in the shinobi nations that even had the slightest interest in Gakido, that was further than his bounty. Regal, Orochimaru, or Juda? Naruto murmured under his breath. Deciding to change the subject, the Mizukage said, I do believe we haven't been properly introduced. My name is Kizoku Janai, Mizukage of Kiri. Naruto wiped away some more tears and looked up at the smiling face of the slightly older man. Uzumaki Naruto, former shinobi of Konoha, Genin sensei of Idatsu, Chiba, and Meimei. Naruto said, raising his hand to shake the others. Oh yes, Naruto had just made another ally. So Idatsu, you wanna know who that kid in the picture was? A look of remembrance came over Idatsu's face as he scrambled over to his bag, and pulled out the picture and brought it over to Naruto. Taking the picture from his student, Naruto pointed to everyone in the photo. Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi-sensei, and me. Naruto said as he pointed to his younger, smiling self before giving a small grin at his genin's reactions. Idatsu's mouth was on the ground. Chiba's eyes were wide, and Meimei had a small look of interest in her face. Naruto broke out in laughter. Unknown location. U.Y. Regal-sama, welcome back. Ohio. Regal-sama. Regal-sama. A brown-haired man in a pair of jeans and a cargo jacket walked down the street as he waved to everyone, a smile on his face. When he reached the end of the road and came to his house, he opened the door and quickly walked over to the wall and went through it. Ohio, Regal-sama. The patient's status has been stabilized and we are currently working on bringing him back to consciousness, said Fuhari, the head medic, to her master, whose warm Hyuga eyes turned to cold, pale, lavender, Hyuga eyes. Taking off his jacket, Regal revealed a ripped body as he watched the operation on Gakido's body commence as he sat in his chair. Soon, yes very soon, Gakido. Konohagakure no Sato. Team 7 was dismissed after the debriefing. The mission went without conflict, mainly because the Mizukage revealed that there was no assassin, he just wanted to meet Naruto. Right now, Naruto was sitting in bar, sake in his hand, and his forehead on the countertop. "Uzumaki Naruto, is that you?" came female voice from the entrance, turning all, well, since Naruto was the only one in the bar, heads towards her. Looking over his shoulder, Naruto groggily said, "What do you want, Anko?" he said as he scooted over, making room on the bench for her. Taking a seat next to the blonde, Anko just grinned. "What, a lady can't say hello to her little Gozu? I'm not little, and I'm not yours. You were, and yes you are." The two friends sat in silence as time clicked by. It was broken by Naruto when he asked, "Nay, Anko, do you think you would have gone with me if I asked?" Anko widened her eyes as she looked at the blonde. She knew this was a hard question for him to ask. A small smile graced her lips as she replied, "Let's not talk about the past and what-ifs. You know you shouldn't dwell on the past, Naruto." Getting up to leave, Anko took one last drink and started for the door when Naruto murmured, "Arigato, Anko." "Anytime Gozu, and yes, I would have gone." Training Ground 14. "Yo, you're late, Gomen, but I kinda got a hangover." Sweat drops graced the back of the heads of Team 7 as they stared at their sensei. It was a plausible excuse, but what kind of ninja got hangovers? And thus, training is dismissed for Todi, ya, and then, poof, went Naruto. Regal's residence. Gakidos opened his eyes to be met by a very bright light, shining down on his face. "Regal-sama, the patient is awake. Orders?" The Red Lion waited to hear the rest of the conversation as he strained the little chakra he had into his ears. He heard the fabric of a chair return to its normal position as the man spoke. "Let me get my jacket, Huhari, then I'll talk to him myself." "Hi." Gakido pulled the chakra out of his ears and waited. Then the man known as Regal came into the room, whose walls were a transparent white, and introduced himself. "Saishi Gakido, a rank-wanted nin who has a bounty equal to that of Uzumaki Naruto, the Byakko. I am Hyuga Regal, S-rank thought Kia nin of Konoha, pleased to meet your acquaintance." "And what can I help you with?" said Gakido, glaring at the man who he knew had ordered him strapped to the examination table. "You have the red cross of Ifrit, which hold the locations of the other crosses. When all of the crosses are brought together, as you know, they form the twin crosses, Maxwell and Origin," said Regal with his eyes closed. "And you want me to give you their locations, right?" Shaking his head with a sigh, Regal told Huhari to get him some tea. "I wonder," Regal said as Huhari returned, "why does everyone assume that I just want those?" "No, I want something else. But I'm going to need manpower," Regal said as he set down his cup of tea. "That's why I come offering you a choice." Opening his eyes, which had oddly been closed on this time, Regal looked at Gakido's blind, onyx orbs and asked, "Will you join me?" And in return, Gakido waited in bated breath. "I'll give you the power to kill the Uzumaki." Naruto sighed again as Chiba threatened Idatsu in attempt to talk to them. He had been quiet ever since they came back from Kiri. Meimei was just looking at her sensei. He had recently taught them the tree walking, and they were now working on water walking. She sighed too, but on the inside. How long was Idatsu planning on staying quiet? She was growing worried about. He hadn't been focusing as well on missions anymore, hadn't been eating much anymore. Said orange-haired boy was currently staring at the polished wooden floor of the Hokage's office as his mind was amuck. Why hadn't his sensei told them that he was the Byakko? He knew that only one person could use the technique Naruto used to beat Gakido. Tsunade looked at the group of four with silent confusion in her eyes. What had happened in the mist? She could the chakra of more seals on Naruto, so she guessed something big went down. Ah, she could ask later. Ahem, might I ask what you want? She said with a tick above her brow. Naruto turned his gaze to Tsunade's and sent the silent message. Why am I keeping with this again? She grinned on the inside and sent the message, because I asked you to. Oba-chan, I'd like to take my team on a training mission before the you-know-what's come round. Asked Naruto. It was here that Tsunade asked the genin to leave the room, saying that she needed to talk to Naruto alone. When the genin had left, she turned to the window and asked, "What are you planning on doing?" "I plan on taking them to the other countries, break a few rules, see a couple of old friends, call in a couple of favors, and pick up a little something." Naruto said as he stood next to her, looking over the roofs of Konoha. The war is coming, Tsunade, and I want no part of it, and nor do I want them to be in it. I've only stayed as long as I have because of those three. The story of Uzumaki Naruto, man who'd defend Konoha till the bitter end, finished its final chapter a long time ago. Tsunade sighed as she heard him. Alright, but I'll only allow this on two conditions, Naruto, she said as she sat back down at her desk, shuffling through some papers. You have to search for Orochimaru, and return any information you find to me, and tell me how much longer you plan to help us. With a sigh of resignation, Naruto murmured, 3 months. Right after the exams then? All right. Uzumaki Naruto, I hereby give you permission to take your students on training trip. You will have to inform their parents, and return before the Chunin exams. Tsunade said as she filled out a piece of paper and handed it to the younger blonde. Be careful. Silence. In the bar? Well, since it's the only bar Konoha had thanks to Sarutobi, who shut most of them down in case Tsunade returned to the village, sat Anko, whose chin rested on her empty palm, just staring at the rain pouring down outside. It had been raining for a while. Her sake had gone cold, meaning she was there for a while. The bar was empty, excluding the bartender, Rijuho, the elderly man who owned it, who was cleaning glasses when the door opened and the bell jingled slightly. Looking up, Rijuho smiled softly, and tilted his head towards Anko, who was still gazing at the rain. Pulling up a chair next to her, which she hadn't heard because she was so zoned out, Naruto said, The rain always calmed me down, did you know that? He said, alerting her of his presence. Snapping her head towards him, Anko gave a soft smile when she saw who it was before looking back to the window. No, I didn't know that. So, who can I help you with, Naru-kun? With a sigh, Naruto said, I'll be leaving the village in 3 months, right after the Chunin exams. What? Why? I've only stayed this long for a couple of people. I'm taking my team on a training mission for a month and a half. So, I thought I might spend the last couple of my days here with my most important people. But why are you leaving? Anko shouted at him. Gomen, Demo, I cannot tell you, and with that, Naruto got up and left, picking up her sake, drinking it, and getting up, leaving Anko there, sitting in her chair. She was just staring at the door which just jingled, signifying that Naruto left the bar, before she noticed the note in her sake cup. Picking it up, she opened it. It held 5 words. Thank you for everything, Anko. I've seen those types of goodbyes before. Never understood why the person they give it to just breaks down crying. Said Rijuho, putting up a glass. Go after him, Anko. This one's on the house. He said, smiling at her. He didn't need to say anything else. She was already out the door running down the pouring street. Young people are so naive. Naruto was getting drenched, and his heart was hurting. Back when he married Sayuri and developed feelings for her, he still held feelings for the purple-haired Jonin he just left at the bar. He still had those feelings. After, it is possible to be in love with 2 people at once. His hair was being matted against his forehead, his shoes were making small splashing sounds and his clothes were weighing him down, when something grabbed the material of soaked jacket. Anko had caught up with him, her hair wet against her back, her pressing herself against his, holding 2 fistfuls of the jacket. He had stopped moving, and she was staring at the ground. Please, she murmured, just loud enough for Naruto to hear her. Don't go. Anko was glad that the streets were practically empty and it was late. She didn't know why, but for some reason, she needed the blonde-haired man in front of her. Naruto had stopped, and could feel her body pressing against his. His back was feeling warmer now, and the rain was getting both of them soaked. There were people running down the streets rushing to get out the rain that was coming down. Please, don't go, not now. Anko, Naruto said as he turned around and pulled her into his toned torso. The streets of Konoha were empty now, leaving them Anko's purple hair cascading down her back and Naruto's falling every which direction. They were looking up at each other now, her hands pressing flat against his muscular build, his arms wrapped around her back. Ocean blue met abyss purple. Gold melted with violet. Breaths mingled with each other. Anko, you said you'd go with me if I asked, thank you. Not for a while, Naruto said, closing the distance between them, leaning down and capturing her lips in a soft but passionate kiss. Jiraiya smiled as he saw his student and Anko. He noticed that they were both enjoying it, wanting the moment never to break. Both their eyes were closed, and their arms were pulling the other closer in an attempt to deepen the kiss. He wouldn't sully this moment by putting it in Icha Icha. That was my first attempt at fluff. Bored. That's the only word that could describe how Gakido was feeling after staring at the roof for 29 hours. Oh, irritated was another word that could describe how Gakido was feeling. The one they had called Regal had made only one appearance, the time that he offered him the power to kill Naruto. He felt another presence enter the room. He recognized it as Huhari, the head nurse and the one he thought was the lover of Regal. No doubt she was carrying another tray of that damned hospital food. How he hated it. Gakido-san, Huhari said in her ever monotone voice. Your body is well enough for you to move, and thus Regal-sama wishes you to come to his office. She said as she undid the straps. He knows you won't run. Your clothes are on a chair to your right from the door. Talk to any one of the nurses for them take you to Regal-sama. She left, leaving the hospital food on his lap. Knocking it aside with a clatter as it hit the ground, he felt for the door, found his clothes and threw them on. No doubt Regal had his cross. Konoha. Day of the Chunin exams. Glad you could make it, said Naruto, sensei of Team 7 as he stood in front of his genin at the door to the first exam. He had given each of them the slips for the exam, saying that they didn't all have to go, just like his sensei, as a final test. If any one of you hadn't come, I couldn't let you through. The genin smirked, knowing that after what their sensei put them through, they were ready. Idatsu, coming to peace knowing that his sensei was the Byakko, sported a new look, wearing a gauntlet over his left arm that was littered with seals and getting both his ears pierced with silver. He wore a cloak like Naruto's, except it didn't have the black and white designs and stopped at the knee. He wore no undershirt, showing off some scars from unknown causes, some from the training he had been put through. He wore baggy navy blue nin pants and traditional sandals of the samurai. Chiba had grown out his hair to his mid-back and kept it out of his face with his headband. He wore a sleeveless black muscle shirt and black gloves, and particularly a long one on his right. Black baggy pants and black nin sandals were his outfit. Mei had opted for a crimson miniskirt and tight tank top overlaid by a maroon jacket. The back of the jacket held the kanji for sunlight, and she had on blue nin sandals. Her nin pouch didn't have any kunai or shuriken, just scrolls and tags. Good luck you guys, said Naruto as he opened the door for them. He didn't change one bit, not including the small change in hair length. So the rejects finally show up, came a brutish voice from the left of Team 7. Akamichi Sugo. Team 4. Teammates include Akamichi Granza and Inazuka Shiri. Jonin Sensei, Nagi Sume, said Chiba, walking past the now gathered team. So you guys made it too, huh? Nara Shinzo. Team 9. Teammates include Yamanaka Yozu and Hyuga Kri. Jonin Sensei is the ever-hot Shirigo no Kuzakumaru, said Mei as she walked with a gentle sway of her hips past the team on their right. Well, fresh genin right out of the academy. Bet the ones that just gave info are the recon and info gathering team, said a group of rain nin in front of all of them. Amu Triji, Kazunaku Genji, and Renzu Shuza of AIM. Jonin Sensei is ranked B rank in Konoha's bingo book and his name is Juja Lakramaru, said Idatsu, walking past them, to meet the glares of the rest of the Chunin hopefuls. I've got message for you all. He stopped with a feral grin on his face as his orange hair covered his eyes. If you don't want to die, we suggest, said Mei as she walked next to Idatsu. You completely avoid Team 7. Finished Chiba as he walked next to Idatsu's left. Laughter broke out from behind and in some in front of them, before a voice broke through it all. All right cunt suckers, sit your asses down and shut up. This is the start of the first exam. Welcome to hell. Wow, never thought the proctor would be her, mumbled Naruto as he walked down the hall. He had no doubt in his team's abilities, after putting them through what he had. He made them learn their chakra nature. Learn to summon, by throwing them off a cliff, die or succeed. And have them survive 5 minutes against him not holding back. Let's just say that Chiba nearly got turned to sushi. Emo sushi anyone? Yep, no doubt. You seem pretty sure of your team, Naru-kun, said a sultry voice from around the corner before he was locked in a tongue battle with Anko. Anko-chan? Ha, she didn't finish before words were muffled by Naruto's mouth. 30 seconds later. Anko's back was against the wall and they were slowly sliding down the wall. Well, this is interesting. Came another voice, breaking the couple apart, but not out of each other's arms. They didn't care who knew about them that much. After the proctor had finished writing down the rules and everyone got seated, the proctor properly introduced themselves. Due to past events in the Chunin exams, we have 3 proctors per round. To my left is Inuzuka Kiba. My right, Yamanaka Ino. 3? Why do we need 3 proctors? Does it have to do with the Konoha auto invasion? Thought Chiba as he narrowed his eyes at the rules. That's understandable, but what's with these rules? According to Naruto-sensei, these are the same rules he dealt with. But normally, if you're caught cheating even once you're stopped and kicked out, and the -2 thing, that means we can only cheat 5 times. Wait a minute. The message here isn't not to cheat, it is to cheat. Then, that means we have to cheat very well. And those proctors come from clans that specialize in intelligence gathering and recon. They're going to catch us anyway, so we only have to pass their standards. Mei can probably figure it out, but what about Dobi? Finished Chiba, leaning back in his chair. So one of the demon's brats have figured it out, thought Ino as she glared at Chiba, though making it look like she was glaring at the room. You'll be given the test individually, as they will be passed out to you. Now, I'll go over the rules. My ex-apprentice and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, well, said the snake-like voice. Jumping out of each other's arms, the 2 ninja faced the one that was talking to them. Orochimaru, may I ask what your business here is? Asked Naruto with a slight edge to his voice as he reached for a kunai. Orochimaru, who was in yet another false disguise, Naruto only recognized him through chakra feel, said, please boy, I haven't come to restart my war, yet. I'm looking for potential candidates for my army. The Idatsu boy was showing some unusual chakra in his legs. Orochimaru didn't have time to finish his taunting sentence before a kunai was pressed against his neck. You will not touch him, said Naruto in the snake Sanin's ear with an icy chill attached. My, boy. You do realize that while we are both suppressing our chakra signatures, and you know what I can cause here. As for the silent question, how did I get here? I was born and raised here, and thus I know the village inside and out, much like you. I know what damage you can cause. But be warned Orochimaru, one little flare of my chakra and 3 jonin in the exam room will know something's going down. And you have information I want. Nani? Naru-kun, what are you talking about? What could that snake bastard have? Asked Anko, walking up behind Naruto, taking her own kunai and readying it. Information on a murderer. So, Orochimaru, I'll make you a deal. Naruto, you can't be serious. Oh, a deal? What might it be Naruto-kun? Asked Orochimaru, curiosity clearly evident in his voice. You let me see info on every one of your subordinates. Oh, and don't worry, I won't copy them, and you leave here alive. Naruto got no reply, because the Orochimaru in front of him had turned into a pile of mud at his feet. He wouldn't notice the letter in his pocket till later. Now, Gakido normally wasn't curious. What people didn't bother him unless they did something to people close to him. Then he got started to snooping around. Now when he asked a nurse to lead him to Regal, he wasn't expecting to see his best friend leaning against the wall of Regal's office. Jira? Yokozuna Jira! Shouted Gakido as he recognized the chakra signature and ran at the person to give them a hug. The figure, now known as Jira, looked at the running brunette. Lifting up his leg, he slammed it point blank into Gakido's face. You two know each other? Asked Regal from his desk, turning his narrowed Hyuga eyes from Jira to Gakido. Once upon a time, said Jira in an apathetic tone. Jira was a unique character. His hair was black and put into a small ponytail, leaving 2 long bags to end at his chin, perfectly framing his face. 2 brown eyes looked on behind a pair of glasses, as a sword was strapped to his waist. He had broad shoulders and a slim build. He wore a red haori with a pair of navy hakama, a black obi around the waist. The haori was decorated with the design of a black tree on the back, its branches extending to the front. A pair of wooden getas was on his feet, adding a good 2 inches making him 5 feet 8. Once upon a time? Man, that's cold, Jira. Pouted Gakido as he rubbed his face. Leaning back in his chair, which was made of fine leather, Regal said, well, since you two already know each other, we can skip name formalities. Gakido, Jira here is my right-hand man. Now, down to business, Most people believe that it is unwise to have two right hands, for it will cause them to fight over who is the true right hand. Regal paused as he took out a cigarette and put it to his lips, lighting it a second later. But I'm not like most people. And Jira here knows that, and that's why he's agreed to my second right hand, you. Gakido turned to the voice, and gave a mock glare. Second right hand? What's that mean? Do I get to do what I want? Sweat dropping, Regal sighed. Mostly, yes. You just have to do what I ask. Unless I give you order of free reign, you have to do what I ask, when I ask it. And what do I get out of this? Smirking, Regal cracked open an eye and looked at he waiting Gakido. Power, freedom, and your cross back. Deal, was the only word said by Gakido in the next half a second. Regal grinned. Jira nodded. So when do we start? Now that the tests have been passed out and you bastards have been seated, it's time to begin the first exam, said Kiba as he leaned against a nearby wall. We wish you luck, commented Ino. And welcome to your one-way ticket to hell, third proctor of the first exam stated. Courtesy of Hyuga Hinata. Finished Hinata. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.